And we're live. The show that's always late.
Only by a few minutes this time.
4 minutes late and a month. But
okay, so Master and I both got the plague, and when we get sick, we both catch it. So he's sick for a week and a bit, and then I get it, and I'm sick for a week and a bit. Nobody wants to listen to either of us hack and wheeze for 2 hours. So
no, that's fair enough. And the 4 minutes are my fault because of audio issues.
Is it your TV that makes that lovely little jingle?
Oh no, I was testing the volume.
The volume makes the jingle.
I was testing the sound in the sound options.
Oh yeah.
I've got 5 different options. So I was just switching between the 5 different ones and pressing the test button, which makes the jingle. But I was also switching between the 3 options on my computer. So
well, we got to figure both. Seriously, both of you always have audio issues. It's one or the other, or both of you.
Not always. Come on.
Every time.
Not every time.
Literally every time.
No.
Yes. Either you can't hear, or Master Anon has to reinstall his fucking headset.
Speaking of audio issues, Miss Thump.
Am I thumping again? Son of a bitch.
No, I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh, you fucking asshole!
Wouldn't that be the problem of StreamYard though? If we're constantly having audio issues?
No.
Well, in my
case, it's StreamYard's fault. Your audio is coming out of your fucking TV.
Well, yeah.
Well, it normally does come out of the TV. But obviously, if I'm going to be on air, I want it coming out the headphones, so you don't get feedback.
What are you saying? I'm loud?
If you're coming, when you're coming out the TV, you are.
Oh, that was a nice save, actually. I set you up for that. You didn't even take the bait. I'm so disappointed in you.
Anyway, this is the show which is filled with spoilers if the name isn't a giveaway. So be warned, there are spoilers. And we're not kid-friendly either, okay? Copa or Copper or however the fuck you pronounce it.
Actually, I'm not sure if I remember to age restrict this stream, so if I haven't, I will do it afterwards.
So if there are any kids under 13 watching, kindly fuck off. Go play with your Pokemon or something. I don't know what kids...
Pokemon Go.
I don't know what kids do these days. Go play in the freeway or something.
This is why you don't have kids, right?
Yeah.
Is that how you get rid of them?
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. What we don't tell people is the closest freeway is 300 miles away, so it's even better.
Keep them busy.
Probably get lost on the way there, and they are never coming back.
Too much screen time for modern children. Keep them busy.
Yeah, send them in the bush with a buck knife and some bread. Leave them out there for a week. No,
football on the freeway. Didn't you play that as a kid?
Did you?
No. I'm here, aren't I?
It would explain a lot if you did. Frequent head injuries.
Dodging those trucks. It's not easy.
You can dodge a truck. You can dodge a ball.
Yeah, kids need more activity in their life these days. So,
Oh, God.
It's a bit of motivation.
I have not watched Dodgeball in a long time, but now I want to. It's got your favorite actor in it.
Oh.
Anyway.
Loves Vince Vaughn. He's his favorite.
Getting on,
was so good.
Getting on to the point of the show, Biggs, it's your pick this week. Although instead of picking 2 movies, you've picked one. You want to do a bit of a horror movie rant as well.
Well, I basically want to piss and moan for at least a few minutes.
Go for it.
Basically, yeah. So I picked one movie, and I just want to.
And I do have to say, this movie is ahead of the rest.
That's what she said.
Well, the main character did go to that party hoping for a little head, but not that particular type.
Well, he got some.
Well,
Head. He got some head from his sister.
Oh no!
She's messed up. She won't remember. It's all right. Anyway,
You say that actress? She's a weird looking woman, kid, individual. She's strange. She's a strange looking person.
Yeah, before she hit the pole, so
Yeah, the pole didn't help.
didn't hurt.
Oh God. Okay.
Not
So,
pulling any punches today. Fuck
oh, you was mean today. MC Bane is a dick.
it. You just figured that out.
No, I've been making comments about it off air. You just couldn't fucking hear us.
Was it Mick Bane or MC Bane?
Hey,
Are you going for Mick Bane or MC Bane?
Bane, McBain, Bane.
Green.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how many times have you two heard from people just randomly or just in conversation? Really? That's it? Because I've heard it millions of times. That
sorry, I should wait until you say what you're going to say before I just randomly jump in with a number.
No, that's okay.
Are you drunk?
No. I wish.
Have you had sugar today?
Yes.
Okay. Explains a lot.
Yes.
We'll have some more and settle in.
So,
yeah, how many times have you two heard from people that when discussing horror movies or just discussing anything really, they want to interject with modern horror sucks, or horror movies are dead, or horror is not original anymore, or is dying?
pretty much every quote-unquote horror movie fan I've ever spoken to has said this to me, except for you, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've probably said it myself. I don't know if I've said horror is dead, but I do think a lot of the big commercial horror movies are, they go for the cheap jump scares and often rely on special effects as opposed to actual horror.
They probably make up like 2% of horror movies.
Like horror movies from the 80s, in other words.
Yeah, but I would say horror movies from the 80s had more character.
That's because we're nostalgic for them.
Yeah.
They were kind of all the same movie, but with different villains.
What I mean originality. I mean, let's take something.
Well, is anything in Hollywood original?
Well, I'm not talking about Hollywood. I would say that 5% of all films made in the world are Hollywood films. Rather, 5% of all films made in North America are Hollywood films. The other 95% are funded from different areas or are completely independent. So Hollywood, as a general rule, doesn't make horror movies because Hollywood doesn't like horror movies, and they never have, not since the 1930s. So Hollywood is kind of a non-issue when it comes to this. Hollywood is such a small player in the film game now. All they do is fill seats with Marvel movies, essentially. That's what Hollywood has become.
Oh, really? They're making Marvel movies now? I didn't know that.
Disney is its own independent company, but it's still a Hollywood venture, if that makes sense. It's funded by people from the Weinstein Company, from all of these various, from Miramax, all of these.
My favorite rapist.
It's all kind of the Weinstein Company, not Weinstein.
He's still my favorite. He's my favorite.
Conglomerate. So, for the most part, throughout film history, mainstream horror films have always been kind of go for it, right?
It's a golden one once in a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just one of those things. I mean, I'll make the argument, and it's certainly a valid argument, that horror in the last 20 years has been more original than the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 80s, 90s combined. I'm leaving the 70s out of there because in my not so humble opinion, the 70s is the golden age of horror, not the 80s. The 80s is the age of excess and
schlock horror.
Yeah.
And pure
Fun.
and I love schlock, don't get me wrong. People complain about sequels and remakes now. Just look at the 80s. Holy fuck. One of the reasons we're getting so many sequels and remakes from higher budgeted film studios now, and I admit there are a lot of sequels and remakes. I don't have a problem with them for the most part, but the reason we're getting so many is because of the nostalgia for the 80s. That's why we got Saw 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I think 8.
Oh God, they've got 8 now?
Whatever, it's irrelevant. The point is that there's a lot of them.
And the first, I think 2 or 3 were really good.
So my point is, that's all people know. Saw, as an example, is the Friday the 13th of the early 2000s.
That's fair.
Go and ask the average Joe on Twitter or social media, hey, what are your favorite horror movies? They'll go, Nightmare on Elm Street, the Halloweens, those Jason movies, The Ring was kind of boring, but it's okay. House of a Million Corpses.
Okay, Moose.
No, that's what they sound like to me. It's the same thing ad nauseum. They have no idea what they're talking about, and these are the people that are unfortunately they're the vocal majority, not the vocal minority. That are
the mainstream commercial.
Yeah, this ridiculous. But it's the people that are mainstream commercial. It's not the film's fault. It's that's all.
Every time somebody says to me that horror is dead, I always tell them to get a subscription to Roomorg, because if they want to hear about modern horror
or just
horror in general, that's really good. That's a good place to find it. People don't know where to look to find this stuff anymore, and I think it's because the internet's oversaturated.
Google it. You'll find it.
I used to Google movies all the time, and I
be interested. I think people that say horror is dead and horror is dying aren't truly interested. They don't even know what horror is. They're not interested in horror films.
It's scary movies.
Yeah. Have they not seen The Descent?
Oh my God, that's such a good movie. We should do that one another time.
And it had a fairly decent sequel as well.
I'm going to start listing movies here. Okay, have they not? The sequel was actually pretty decent. Have they not seen I'm going to start with the more mainstream ones and work my way down. Have they not seen The Descent? I know tons of people have seen 28 Days Later. Fantastic film, super popular.
Yeah. And once again, good sequel.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see a third one. There's controversy behind the scenes between owners and producers or some shit like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Especially when things get a little bit of a bigger budget. Things just can where they can. Have they not seen Let the Right One In? And its fantastic remake, Let Me In. Fantastic vampire movies, both of them. Have they not seen the others?
Yeah.
So
that is a Hollywood horror film, and it's chilling and wonderfully acted and absolutely beautiful. Have they not seen? I don't know. Let's see. I don't know. The Mist, House of the Devil, Orphan, Session 9, The Devil's Backbone, Lake Mungo, Wolf Creek, for Pete's sake, 30 Days of Night.
Wolf Creek scares the piss out of me.
What about some more comedy horror ones, like Behind the Mask, or Dog Soldiers, or
Hatchet,
or Jeepers Creepers, or Hatchet, or the French extreme films like Martyrs or Inside, the really, really good Clive Barker adaptations such as The Midnight Meat Train or Dread.
High Tension.
High Tension is one of the French extreme films. Absolutely. Pontypool. Has nobody seen Pontypool? I guess not.
I love Pontypool's actually on my list.
Oh yeah, I saw it on your list.
All of the films I just mentioned are less than 0.1% of the absolutely amazing original horror films, save for maybe the couple that take ideas from other films like Hatchet.
Ratchet is really good fun, though.
It is, but save for that, there are literally thousands, perhaps 10,000 decent horror films of the last 20 years and another 1,000 amazing ones. And original ideas that have never, ever been done before. And if they have been done, the idea is turned on its ear and put in a jar and shaken and then spilled out just to see what they get. Even remakes do that now.
What's the streaming service we have that's just horror? Shudder?
Yes.
If you're wondering where to find just a big vomit pile of horror movies, sign up for Shudder. Netflix has a decent selection. Actually, I think that's where we watched Darling and The Eyes of My Mother. Both
those are both on Shudder anyway. But yeah, those two as well. We've
really good.
Darling and The Eyes of My Mother.
Yeah.
Darling a film of that nature hasn't been done since it basically is a remake of Repulsion, but it's also 50 years after the fact, and it turns it on its ear and gives the audience something they've never really seen before. Have you really seen a film like The Eyes of My Mother before in your life?
No, it's so fucked up.
But horror is dead, right? Horror's dead.
Like I said, in
original ideas in horror anymore, and it's dead, and we should all just stop liking it because the 80s are best.
A lot of people that say that genuinely don't know where to look, and they're lazy. They're lazy. They're not gonna dig around. So here's your quick fix to that. Get Shudder. It's not very expensive,
but
it's full.
That's true, but it sounds like a personal problem. That's a you problem.
You just want to be mad.
No, it's a personal problem for sure. I think they want to put their head in the sand and just be nostalgic for the 80s and just they think that Friday the 13th Part 95 is just the best. Or sorry, that Jason movie Part 95 is just the best.
The Jason series.
Yeah. That's how I know to disengage with that person when discussing horror is when they say Jason movies.
I like the Jason movies.
Yeah, done.
But generally speaking, those movies from the 80s that had big franchises, they tended to get worse as they went along.
Oh, hell yeah.
People tend to remember the first one or two or maybe three, and then after that it's just cash-ins.
Well, they're fun. They're so fun.
Even
the bad ones.
Again, speaking of cash-in, they made more money with each.
Yeah, the more they made, the more money they made.
The only one, as Friday the 13th, the only one that was really less popular from a popular culture standpoint was Part 8. That's it.
Which one was that? That was Jason Goes to Hell, was it? Or was that?
That was Part 9. Jason Takes Manhattan was Part 8.
Jason Takes Manhattan. Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a sitcom.
It's a laugh track.
You forgot to mention the Twilight series of movies, though.
Oh, yeah.
Are those horror movies because there's vampires and werewolves in them?
Yeah, well, yeah.
They needed more sex. They would have been better.
I don't know. I've never seen them, to be honest.
I watched the first one because I had an aunt that bought me all of the books for Christmas one year, which means I've also suffered through reading all the books because I didn't want to hurt her feelings. And the first movie made me want to gouge out my eyes. It was Neil Breen bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. The books.
That's something to look forward to.
The books at least got a little bit better as you read them because she got better as a writer. But dear fucking God, the first book in the first movie will make you want to kill yourself.
Well, I think Biggs makes a good point, but maybe we should talk about some of the negative aspects too. I mean, do you think there are negative aspects, say, in the last 10, 20 years in horror? I would say...
every genre.
Yeah, of course. But I would say one thing which really pisses me off with modern horror, some modern horror or subcategory of modern horror, is the large number of really cheap what I call shaky cam movies or found
There was
footage.
a lot of those in the 90s after the Blair Witch Project came up.
In the early 2000s, you mean?
Sorry,
Yeah.
early 2000s.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and even in the last 10 years.
Oh, yeah, it's
I
very
agree.
popular.
I agree. That's a negative aspect. It's no different than the slasher craze after Friday the 13th in 1981.
Yeah.
Same thing, and it dies off. And you know what I mean? It's the same argument. I could make the same argument for any decade when it comes to horror.
I will
Well,
say,
they tend to be cheap to make.
Of course. So we're
and easy. Yeah. So
slasher movies. Absolutely. So
slashers were more fun than the oversaturation of shaky cams. The slashers are always fun.
Says you, the shaky cams made more money. So the mainstream
That's
audience.
surprising.
Again, the mainstream audience has spoken, and they're the audience. that audience ain't no shit.
Speaking of which,
nothing.
The sequel to the Blair Witch Project was honestly really bad. The longer I sit and think about it, the sadder it makes me.
2000 Bane. Don't get it confused with that horrible mess of a movie.
I'm sorry, hold on. Which one are we talking about? We're talking about the original sequel, the one that came.
No, not the original sequel. That we're not talking about the one from 2000. We're talking about the other sequel from 20.
The recent one.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Our very first episode.
Yeah, our very first episode, the pilot episode we talked about. Yep. Yeah, it was
fair enough. But again, that's another one of those mainstream horror movies that made a ton of money. Right? So
the name too, just for the name alone, people will go see it.
I think Paranormal Activity has a lot to do with this too. And I didn't mind the first one.
What? No, come on. The first
one had some pretty chilling moments, actually.
Yeah, the bit when she was pulled out of the bed towards the end, I thought was really good.
I'm sorry.
I couldn't. Okay, so I couldn't take any of it seriously because they didn't leave. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm not by no means saying it's perfect. And once again, I think they got worse as they went on. But I thought there was one or two good points in it. And keep in mind, it's been a long time since I've seen it. But the one scene I remember is when she's pulled out of bed. I thought that was rather effective.
In another movie, it would have been great.
Sure. My whole argument here this evening is that in the last 20 years, what we could argue is the modern horror era, there's more people making horror movies, more independent artists, and more original ideas than all of those other decades combined. And I truly mean that too, because I have seen at least 700 horror films in the last 20 years. And there are things that, especially, I keep attacking the 80s here because that's what everybody wants to go back to. But the 80s, quite frankly, for the most part, sucked. It was just rehash after rehash after rehash. And that was everything, even the independent filmmakers. Nothing but rehashes. Now, at least the independent filmmakers are doing different things or turning things on their head. So
yeah, we even have what looks like a really good H.P. Lovecraft adaptation coming out.
Is that The Colors Out of Space?
Yeah,
with Nicolas Cage.
Because I really like some past H.P. Lovecraft adaptations, actual adaptations, and not inspired work. But generally speaking, they tend to be really, really cheap, and don't really do justice. Even though I love some of the movies, I've even picked one or two in the past.
Movies.
You cut out.
The gooey movies.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're overly gooey. Those are the ones that are inspired by, and those can still be good.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be a bit schlocky, which isn't necessarily bad. But I'd like to see a really high-budget, serious, well-made H.P. Lovecraft movie, and it looks like we might actually get it.
Here's the thing:
I haven't seen it yet, but
I haven't either. I hear you mention this a lot, Bane. Big budget. I feel that big budget, 8 times out of 10. I'm not going to go with 9. I'm going to say 8 times out of 10 means nothing when it comes to the quality of a film. It's all in art direction and execution.
Well, look, and that's one of the things I want to bring up.
I like it's better, but arguable better. Take something. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just going to talk for just one more moment here about a inspired by H.P. Lovecraft story, 2007's Cthulhu. Yep. Yeah, it's a 2007. It's a drama film. It's a horror film at its core, but it's a drama, and it had next to no budget, and it shows because it's a drama. It's like a period drama. People just speak in rooms, and some things happen, and people cry and yell at each other, and it's really well acted. But at the end, that's when the big spoiler comes home, right? And the deep ones crawl out of the ocean, and and you don't really see them, but that, I feel, if they had this giant budget and we saw these slimy ass deep ones crawl out of the ocean and they're half CG and doing their thing, it would have cheapened the film.
I agree. I totally agree.
Big budget.
Alien is a perfect example of that.
Yes, sir.
The fact that we saw less of the creature made it creepier. Now, I'm not. I don't think large budget special effects are necessarily bad. They can be good, and they can really make a movie. But
my God, can they ever? And they do.
But often they're focused purely on the special effects rather than story and characters. You'll often see this with big budget remakes of a cheap movie. They'll throw all the money into the special effects and ignore the story and the heart of the original.
That could have happened to The Thing, but didn't.
No, The Thing is an exception to the rule, most definitely.
Tiny, minuscule budget. They just worked with what they had. Well, it had a minuscule budget,
but obviously
Hollywood films at the time. But
obviously, special effects had advanced in the 20 or 30 years since the original. So
yeah, so it's a little unfair to compare them. I see what you're saying. Maybe are you maybe talking about a film from the 70s or early 80s being remade today? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I guess a good example would be Dawn of the Dead.
I like that remake, but I know what you're saying.
I love the remake of Dawn of the Dead, and I love the original too. And they're very different movies, but
that's done right, in my opinion. They are.
I agree. That's one that kept the essence of the original, although it made a more serious version of the original. The original was a little bit, I guess, tongue-in-cheek in a way.
Tongue-in-cheek, but I think it kind of flipped the audience the bird a little bit, in that it made the audience at the time feel that, is it tongue-in-cheek?
Well, I mean, I think it was largely due to budget and the limits of special effects, but it was a little schlocky, and it was also, largely commentary on consumerism and things like that. But the remake just focused on the horror element and obviously had a bigger budget.
Yes.
So I think that's one of the successes of being a remake with a bigger budget and better special effects. But a lot will just focus on the special effects and not the story or the characters. And I'm not just talking about horror, but remakes in general.
Yeah. I think I like remakes a lot more than you do. I think we've kind of established this over the months. Have you seen?
It really depends on the remake. I mean, there are some remakes that are really good. There are some which are very different.
In a good way, and there are some which are different in the worst way.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, some good examples of remakes would be Seven Samurai and the Magnificent Seven, or Yojimbo, and was the Western version of that? Was it a Fistful of Dollars?
I believe it was A Fistful of Dollars. Yeah.
And there was also a 1920s version of it with Bruce Willis. I can't think of the name of it though.
No,
so I think they're good remakes in the sense that they've taken the original and done something new and different with it.
You know what?
But often remakes are just cash-ins. They're just playing on the name of the original,
but
which is often
those remakes.
It's often a cheap movie, which has become a cult classic, and someone in Hollywood has decided to cash in on the name and the fame. And throw a big budget in it. Poltergeist, for example. I mean, I know the original was a fairly big budget.
I'll stop you right there. Poltergeist is not a Hollywood remake. You mentioned Hollywood again.
I know. I know. I'm using Hollywood, but
I know, but it's such a thing. I think people kind of think that Hollywood is this huge evil entity, but it has really so little to do with modern filmmaking that it's almost moot.
Yeah, I admit I'm probably using
I'm
Hollywood inappropriately,
I'm not criticizing you in a mean way. I'm just saying people use that, and I do too. I often say Hollywood this, Hollywood that, and it's like, well, wait a minute, you know.
But yeah, the remake of Poltergeist was shit.
Yo, I agree. It was terrible. 2013, I think that came out. Yeah, it just wasn't. I actually got halfway through it on YouTube, and that's a legitimately kind of bad remake that there,
and it threw its money in special effects, and the special effects were nicer than the original. It missed out on the essence of the original.
Yeah, the apologist in me wants to go, well, it had some redeeming aspects, and I guess visually it did, sure.
Yeah.
I'm curious what both of you thought of the Amityville Horror remake.
I thought it was okay. I mean, Ryan Reynolds, notwithstanding, but I thought it was okay.
Oh, come on, be nice to Ryan.
I like the original film only kind of.
Okay.
It's been a long time since I've seen the original. I'd need to watch them back to back, I think, to
I don't feel it's the classic people say it is. It kind of just got back into the mainstream audience's mindset around 2005 when it was 110% confirmed that they were faking it all. They actually admitted that it was all a hoax. So that's when
I actually enjoyed the remake. But
me too. I enjoy most horror films I watch, regardless.
I wasn't closely attached to the original. Like, I've seen them both, but I still enjoyed the remake quite a bit.
The original is a 70s time capsule in the worst way, in my opinion. It's just, I like it. I think it's a pretty well made film, but it's just
like The Exorcist light. No,
it's just for some reason all I can think about when I watch the Amityville Horror from 1977 or 78, whichever year it came out, might even be 76. All I can think about is Margot Kidder, the actress Margot Kidder. All I can think about is just how freakishly tall she is, because she's like almost without clothing for that entire movie, and I just keep getting her character in that movie as a not drunk character from Black Christmas, whatever that character's name is.
Yeah.
So, it just I kind of ruined it for myself, I guess. But it's just 70s. Everything is the 70s. Everything
very 70s. Yeah.
There's green shag carpet, the house, just the film stock, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just
I'm shocked you don't love it more.
It's not the classic that everybody said it was, like I said, 10 or 15 years ago, because like I said, it came back into the public mainstream eye around 2005, just a year before the remake.
70s fashion didn't age too well, did it?
Well, no, it didn't, and that's such a. It feels like it's a cheap shot at the movie, and it kind of is, but it's very much a product of its time, and it's hard to see past it, and that's a critical thing. But as I said, it was brought back into the mainstream in around 2005 when The Family, the Lutzes, came out and said, "Yeah, we lied, and it was a hoax. We lied about the whole thing." The story.
I'm so shocked.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody was shocked except for maybe a small minority of people. But that's why it was all popular again, and that's when it came across as this big classic horror movie from the 70s. When in reality, nobody really gave a fuck before 2005. So nobody, not even audiences at the time. It was an okay horror movie, but it's really nondescript.
How many Amityville movies have there been? It's been tons, haven't there?
A handful.
4 and a remake.
Yeah.
No,
it seems there's more than that for some reason.
Mistake. 4 in the original series, the remake, and then 2 others.
Yeah, I thought there were more
that are unrelated to either of them.
Okay. Yep.
In that universe. So yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, there's B4. So 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8.
16.
Yeah. Well, wait, she just looked it up. So
I did. 16.
Okay. Yeah, see, 8 of them.
You're serious? There's 16.
16.
I knew there were a ton of them.
So most of them come out.
Okay, let's see. I'll just read you some dates here. 1979, 1982, 1983, 1989, 1990, 1992, 1993.
See, I missed the whole 90s decade there. Yep.
Yeah, I like Amityville versus My Little Pony. That was a good one.
That was good.
That was a great crossover.
1996, 2005, 2011, 2013, 2015, 2015, 2016, 2016. Holy shit! 2016, 2016, 2016. Wow, that was a big year.
What about the upcoming 17th Amityville horror movie?
There was 4.
Amityville Horror versus Sharknado.
Don't joke about it. It might happen.
There was 2 just in 2018.
Come on, I love the Asylum. Those guys at the Asylum, they're just having good fun. They know.
Seriously, there was 2 last year.
Yeah.
2.
One of them was probably from the Asylum. The Asylum, for you people that don't know, is a film studio based out of, I believe, California in the U.S. that they're responsible for the Sharknado movies and various other.
I can read you the.
They know what they're doing. So I give them a free pass.
The same.
Oh yeah. Look, I agree.
They know what they're doing.
They're very tongue in cheek.
Yeah, it's just.
And
great.
they purposely do rip-offs of big Hollywood movies.
Oh, they do it, and it pisses people off. It's great. I love those. I can't actually sit through them. Most of them I find them insufferable. I don't think they'd even fault me for that, but I get what they're doing, so I kind of respect them for that.
Yeah, I think their rip-off of Pacific Rim was something like Atlantic Rim or something like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, or Independence Day, it was. I can't remember what that one was called. The title made me laugh at the time.
Yeah, there was 5 released in 2016, and then
Off, isn't it? Missing on.
4 released in 2017, and then 2 last year. Like, what the fuck, man?
What's this? Amityville or Sharknado? Amityville.
No, Amityville. They're counting, like, most of them have Amityville in the title, but they're counting The Conjuring 2 as an Amityville film.
It's because they mentioned it in the script. That doesn't count. It's only because it's based on the same
Same con artists.
The same con artist, basically. Yeah, no.
All the rest of them have Amityville in the actual title.
Yeah. See, that's just it. That's a modern horror film. That's not
Amityville 3D released in 1983.
Yeah, there was a lot of 3D movies.
Unfortunately,
we should do a special on the bad 1980s 3D movies. I think I'd pick Jaws 3.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, isn't that a great movie? So much fun.
Oh, it's so bad. The thing about that is I've never seen it in 3D. Maybe it's good in 3D, but when you watch it not in 3D, it's really fucking bad.
All of those movies have under 40% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Well,
one of them has 0% because I don't think anybody's fucking watched it.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
Amityville: The New Generation.
Ooh.
Released in 1993.
Well, you'd never get Neil Breen doing an Amityville.
That's because he can't direct a cohesive story.
I'd watch him do an Amityville remake. I think that'd be great.
You would watch him do anything because you find him hysterical.
I do.
That's true.
Hey, speaking of remakes,
yeah.
What did you think? Have you ever seen Let Me In, the remake of Let the Right One In?
Yep.
Have you seen both?
I thought they were both good movies.
Yeah, they're
an interesting twist on the whole vampire thing.
The remake is made for a different audience. I love that style of remake. It's like Ringu and The Ring. I actually like The Ring. I think that's a pretty good American horror film. I
enjoyed it. I actually like the sequel too.
My point is, those are remakes that I think have their place. They're made for a different audience, and the film industry has been doing that since the 1920s.
Yeah. Well, like I said earlier, Seven Samurai and
the Seven is a remake of Seven Samurai for an American audience. That's all it is, and it's a wonderful film. I in a lot of ways, I actually think it's just as good as the original that it's based on. I love that movie a lot.
I'm more of a fan of Seven Samurai, but I do like Magnificent Seven.
I'm more of a fan of Seven Samurai as well. Certain aspects are just as good.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't disagree with that. So what do you think of the American remakes of Asian horror?
Well, I'm going to give, and people are going to cringe at this, but again, I'm going to sound like a horrible elitist here. It's because I am. I'm going to start with The Grudge, and I'm going to say that one gets a free pass. And you know why? Because first of all, it's the same movie made for a different audience, and it's written and shot by the same director. So
stop ruining people's everything. They want to hate that movie so bad.
That doesn't protect it from valid criticism. That's not what I'm saying. The point is that it literally is the same movie, reshot. The script is the same, just in English with a slightly different switch in that there's an American woman in Tokyo that goes through all of this shit instead of the native Japanese woman that goes through all of this shit. So there's a slight narrative change. Other than that, it's the same film, and I think it's an absolutely wonderful remake, except for Sarah Michelle Gellar, who can fall off a building and dies, which is what she does in the second one. So it's all good. Yeah, so I just wanted to get that out of the way.
Is it wrong that the first time I watched that, it made me laugh a lot?
Yeah, that's okay.
I totally missed the whole point of that movie, and just
you did
made me laugh.
You did.
It wasn't her. I feel like it might have been her.
Maybe. So the original question here is, what do I think of American remakes of foreign films? Well, I mean, obviously I haven't seen them all. I probably haven't seen the originals of all of the films that have been remade by American people or for American audiences or for a different audience. But for the most part, I think from the ones I've seen, their heart is in the right place. I mean, especially with like films like Let Me In or The Grudge or The Ring. And I'm scraping my brain right now. There are several more on the tip of my tongue. But just going off those three alone, yeah, I think they can be absolutely amazing.
I guess most horror fans prefer the originals, though. That's what you tend to hear, that the originals tend to be better. So I'm guessing the remakes are for more of a mainstream audience rather than
here's the thing,
hardcore fans.
That's true. I'm going to interject there again. Most people, upon watching The Grudge in theaters in 2005, and watching it at home, didn't know that it was a remake. Same with The Ring. Same with Let Me In. And I would be willing to bet something very valuable to me anyway. I'm trying to think of something. I would be willing to bet something that, I bet you more than half, I bet you 75% of the audience, Bane, and this might sound like a reach to you. It's not a foreign movie, but I bet you 75% of the audience didn't know that Dawn of the Dead was a remake in 2004. And I bet you 25% of those 75% still don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how you'd prove those numbers, but you could be correct.
I can't prove it.
Yeah.
I feel that I am, because The Grudge, people still don't know that it's a remake of Ju-On. It's directed by the same guy, and it was directed, get this, the same year.
Most people are going to be exposed to horror
stuff. They're just like, oh, I'm a horror film buff, and I like those Jason movies, and that movie didn't scare me. That's another thing. Like it's like going into that horror movie sucked. I wasn't scared.
I'm gonna ask you something controversial.
First of all, that's subjective.
The Village, horror movie or drama?
Well, I mean, we'd have to ask M. Night Shyamalan about that. I actually don't have an answer for you.
Well,
hold on. So how do we define horror? Because it's such a broad genre, and often I think there's movies that kind of fall into horror, but maybe not. I mean, how would you
a little bit of both, right?
I think horror is the most subjective genre. I think it's such a, I hate to use this word, but it's a very fluid genre, if that makes sense.
If we were going to leave it up to the director, Mr. Shyamalama Ding Dong was very upset with the way that movie was advertised.
Yeah.
Because it was advertised as a horror film.
Yeah.
And he meant it to be a drama, like a love story, which is
almost like a period piece in a way, right?
It was a period piece. That was his intention.
Yeah.
And then they advertised it as a horror film, and it flopped at the box office.
Okay, so you already know where I stand on this. Whatever the director says is what it is.
Well, sometimes the director's out to lunch too. So.
You know what? It doesn't matter if they're out to lunch. They still created and wrote the goddamn thing, right?
Fair enough.
It's like calling a songwriter. That song doesn't mean what you say it means. No. If the songwriter says, it doesn't matter what the song means to you or what you think it means or what you thought it meant for 45 years. If the songwriter comes out and says, nope, the song means this and that's what it means and that's concrete.
Did you find it strange?
The song can't mean anything else than that. It only means that. Too bad, so sad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Did you find it strange the way that it was advertised, though?
Not really. It didn't really hit me because I'm not I don't go into the theater or rent a movie or buy a movie and whine and complain about it incessantly for the most part. Yeah. I watched The Village in 2002 and I rented it on DVD and I thought, that was a pretty well done film.
Yeah, no, me too. I really liked it when I first saw it. I think it's very underrated because people want a horror movie and that's not really what it is. Like it's a tense drama, but it's not. Again,
people's main criticism of it was that's not scary.
Oh my god!
People said the same thing about Hereditary. That's the film I'm going to discuss this evening. That's subjective.
The Boogeyman came out around the same time, right?
The Village. No, I think so. 2002, 2003.
Yeah, in and around that time.
I might have that mixed up with Darkness Falls, but yeah.
I think M. Night has become predictable for being unpredictable, if that makes sense.
I think he's become unpredictable or predictable for being unpredictable with The Village. To be honest,
yeah.
I think everyone knows his style and that there's going to be a big twist at the end. So now, at least I do. I look for it and usually guess it before we get to the end.
Lady in the Water doesn't have a twist.
Lady in the Water is also almost like a romantic drama in a way.
It is.
Yeah. Not that that's a bad thing.
It has no twist though. It's very what it is. It's very straightforward for an M. Night film. It's also really good, highly underrated.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, speaking of again, I got to bring up remakes again. The Others.
Oh yeah.
In my opinion, again, this is all subjective. Greatest Hollywood, and it's a legit Hollywood movie. Greatest Hollywood horror film, probably ever, but at least of the last 20 years.
And you ignored it for so long.
I did, but it's a remake. It's basically a straight up remake of The Innocents from 1963,
which I still like to watch.
Yeah, well, The Innocents is just as good, but it's dated and it sounds shrill and kind of.
Yeah, you hate the sound mixing from movies, older movies.
The sound mixing from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s is so shrill and awful to my ears. I love Psycho, like 1960s Psycho is legitimately, in my opinion, a really amazing horror film. Even today, it's very dated, but it's very watchable. But that shrill soundtrack that just plays throughout the entire film, not the not that part. That's a great piece of music, but just that kind of flighty, floaty, almost Mary Poppins, Snow White-esque.
You know what?
Flighty violin shit. I hate that shrill sound. The sound mixing, the technology just wasn't there, so I can't blame the film itself or the filmmakers.
I gotta say with
sound terrible.
I gotta say, with modern horror movies, the cheap ones, I can tell if a cheap horror movie is going to be an absolute piece of shit in the first 5 minutes based on the music.
Oh yeah, usually
If
it's a
they have,
good giveaway.
if they're really shit music and it's really loud and overbearing to, kind of build drama, I
There's
know
a
it's going to be shit,
oh
right?
yeah, I tend to.
There's no art in it. There's no subtlety. It's just
I
fucking
think
the person doesn't know what they're doing, basically.
yeah. For the most part, I think I do agree with you, and you and I've discussed that quite a bit in the past. I think certain films, and again, we've said this over and over again, so it doesn't really bear mentioning, but some films get that aspect right, where it's just loud, obnoxious fucking music, but it just fits.
Yeah. It's obviously, the circumstance. Like, if someone goes to a loud fucking disco or something, obviously you're going to have loud music. Or you might have a chase scene or something, and maybe the music is suited for that. But with horror, often less is more, and it should be subtle. The audience shouldn't even be aware of it in a sense.
You know what?
So
That's
it builds the scene, right?
I agree. I think that's an unwritten rule. I say unwritten because not all horror directors have to follow this.
Yeah.
Something that all horror directors should consider before they make a decision on the musical score in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, so if I start watching some random cheap horror movie, which I know absolutely nothing about, and in the first 2 or 3 minutes, the music is just it's shit and it's blaring and it's obviously over the top to try to create atmosphere, I immediately know that the director has no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, or control has been taken away from them and went. No, never mind. You mentioned really cheap movie. Okay, usually you have control, so no, fair enough. So yeah, and those cases you're absolutely correct. The director's probably like, oh yeah, scary music makes scary film. Oh yeah, I get what you're saying. I guess what I want people to take away from this ridiculous rant is that horror isn't dead, and I guess Missanon's kind of correct in that you have to know where to look, but looking it's not difficult to find these films.
I just have to jump in and say that horror isn't dead, but some of it is undead. So, well, if we want to be technical,
yeah. Well, I can turn that around on you. I kind of agree with you. Some of it is just rehash after rehash and these tropes that just won't die. But it's been like that since the 1920s.
Yeah, but I mean that's the same with most genres, isn't it?
It is. I guess what I want to get across here is that in the last 20 years, especially in the last 9, I'm going to say 10, starting with 2009, just because there are more opportunities for budding filmmakers to show their stuff, and that's because of social media.
Oh yeah, definitely.
No, I think that's important too, and I can't discount social media for playing a very positive role. And I'm talking only of horror. I mean, I know there are other genres of film, but horror is my specialty, and I like to think that I know my shit for the most part. So I think that social media has, especially with short films on Facebook and Twitter and such, have really opened the way for independent filmmakers to really bring forth their original ideas. Again, I'll bring up The Eyes of My Mother. Have you ever seen a horror film with that exact idea? I don't think so. I'm sure it's taken inspiration from a book or something, or maybe it didn't. The point is that there are original ideas, and I think they're more abundant now than they ever have been in the horror.
But that was clearly an artistic movie. The choice of black and white and the way it was shot and the use of sound and the whole thing. You could tell that the director had a lot of love and care for it, right? And they had a vision.
Then again, so is I'm going to try to find one that you've seen. Have you ever seen? I'm going to find stylistic ones here. Dog Soldiers.
Ages ago, long ago. Yeah.
Again, that's not what you and I would traditionally call an art film. Also, it has its style. There's never been a film like it, ever. And this is only from 15 years ago. So, I mean, yes, I know, I know what you're saying. I think, I think you're thinking of The Eyes of My Mother as kind of like an elevated film, right? Like something that's more.
Well, I just think there's. I mean, you can say this about any genre of movies, obviously, but I think with horror, I think specifically with horror, it's a starting point for a lot of new directors because you can make a cheap horror movie, relatively easy.
Mhm.
Especially if it's a slasher movie or something, and you don't need a whole heap of special effects except blood or something, right? Which is relatively easy to do.
I would argue that making an effective horror film is much harder than any other genre.
I agree, an effective one, but I still think there are a lot of people who make cheap horror movies because they're easy.
Yes.
Slasher movie set in a cabin in the woods or something, right? You don't need a big cast. It's relatively easy to shoot.
That's right. Speaking of a Cabin in the Woods from 2009, never ever been done before in the history.
I'm thinking of Evil Dead as something which was
which had never been done at that time.
Yeah, but that was relatively cheap to make.
Oh yeah, it was very cheap. Cabin in the Woods had a massive budget, so but
yeah,
it was that was a trope of the Evil Dead. But that Cabin in the Woods, it's like I compare that film to like John Dies at the End or something. Miss Anon knows that movie. I mean, huge spoiler: John dies at the end. Anyway,
I know that name. I'm sure I've seen it, but I can't think.
I'm getting off track here, but yeah, absolutely.
Was that 2014 or something like that? It came out
2013. Yeah.
Yeah, I have seen it, but I can't remember anything about it.
Okay. Again, I'm gonna interject here. The Evil Dead, yes, cheap horror film, and yes, but the thing is, he didn't choose to make the Evil Dead. Well, okay, he chose to make the Evil Dead. He didn't go, oh, I want to make a movie. What kind of movie can I make? Oh, I know, a horror film because it's cheap and easy. That's not what Sam Raimi did.
But I do think some directors do. Once again, I'm going back to the shaky cam.
I would argue that that's a minority, probably a huge minority, because many of these directors that have come about in the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, their second, third, fourth, fifth film, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, it's all horror. That's what they do. Right. And it's not, I would argue that it's not just because they're easy to do, because good horror is not easy to do. The Evil Dead,
I agree. Good
Dead was not easy to make. It was 2 months of absolute grueling hell for everybody involved. Most people walked off set several times. They almost didn't get it done. It was not easy.
But it was cheap. I mean, they just rented a cabin and they, it's shoestring.
Budget. You know what would have been cheaper? A romantic comedy.
That's true.
Right. So again, I'm going to say from the same director. Let's see. 18 years later. Oh wait, 20. Yeah, wait. Sorry, I'm bad at this. 28 years later, he directed Drag Me to Hell, which again is a wholly original film from a director that's known for horror in a decade that apparently is completely devoid of original ideas. So here you have one of the best, most prolific horror directors in Sam Raimi directing Drag Me to Hell, which has never been done before. And it's a high budget. I would argue it's not a Hollywood movie, but it was a high budget, very popular movie.
Have you seen The Ritual?
I have, actually, recently.
What do you think of it?
I really, really loved it. I need to watch it again to really sink my teeth into it.
It's a great movie, isn't it? I mean, what do you think of the creature at the end? That was rather original.
It was really original. I actually don't want to spoil too much about it because that'd be cool to speak about later. I need to
really movies we are not talking about today.
Give that movie just one of those quiet watches where I just stare at the screen and do nothing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I have to admit that I did watch it on my laptop, so I did look away a few times and fiddle with a couple of things. So, I didn't really watch it. So, again, it's one of those films that it may have tropes that are familiar, but it was in many ways.
Yeah, the Lost in the Woods trope is really
course.
familiar, but I do think it's a fairly original twist on it, at least the ending.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just like I'll bring up The Descent again from 2005. I love that movie. It's similar to the Lost in the Woods sense in that they're lost in a cave and monsters come out to haunt them and kill them and decapitate them. But it's done in such a way that's why I brought it up first. I think out of the 2000s, that would be one of the top 5 films I bring up. The mainstream films, anyway, that I'd bring up to argue with somebody that says the horror genre is dead or there are no original ideas. Well, look at The Descent. Look at 28 Days Later, what it did to zombies. Right? And 28 Days Later is a huge budget. It's an original idea within the zombie subgenre.
Well, not really.
It was done in such a way that nobody had ever seen before.
Yeah, the interesting thing about 28 Days Later is
I've seen Rabid from 1978 from David Cronenberg, of course.
When I saw The Walking Dead, I thought, they've ripped off 28 Days Later because the main character was in a coma and then wakes up.
Oh yeah.
Sometime later, and but I actually found out later on that the comic that The Walking Dead is based upon came out before 28 Days Later.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So 28 Days Later probably ripped off the Walking Dead comic.
Rip off is a very strong word.
All right. Inspired.
I've been reading Walking Dead since its inception. I was a teenager when I first started reading it.
Yeah.
So I'm certainly aware of that. Just it solidified that idea of the rabies virus in mainstream cinema. Rabid did it.
The main character being in a coma for
of course, absolutely,
and then waking up to find the world is turned to shit. That's a great concept. But, I thought it was original in 28 Days Later until I saw until I heard that the Walking Dead comic came out first.
Yeah. Yeah, my old beat up copy of Walking Dead issue 2 is
Rabies zombies are the scariest.
They can be.
They're fast.
Other zombie movies, like comedy horror, alive and well throughout the last 20 years. Just look at Shaun of the Dead.
Hatchet is great.
Hatchet is an absolute tongue-in-cheek, almost a fuck you to the standard slasher.
It is a joy to watch.
I don't know if you've seen this movie or heard anything about it, and if you haven't seen it, I don't want to spoil it because it's a really interesting Japanese movie. I just watched it the other day. It's called One Cut of the Dead.
I don't think I've even heard of that.
Oh, you need to watch it.
One Cut of the Dead.
Yep.
Yeah. If I see a screenshot or something, I might know. Nope. No, I'm. You know what? It's a Shudder exclusive too. So yeah, I'm going to plug Shudder once again.
Yeah, it's a good place to go for horror if that's what you want to watch. I'm being asked in the chat to define horror because I don't think fear.
I brought that up before, but we kind of went off topic.
Yeah, we did talk about it a little bit there, but I mean, I don't. It's really hard to define horror because fear.
Okay, just look. All you have to do. I've told people this for the last 20 years, literally 20 years, probably even more than that, since I was in early high school or late elementary school. Horror. Just look at the dictionary. I brought out the dictionary in school too. An intense feeling of fear, shock, or disgust.
So would you class something like Midsummer as a horror movie?
Absolutely.
Yep.
One of the reasons for that is because the director says it's a horror movie.
Yep. So, well, I brought that up specifically because it's the same director as
As
the
her,
movie that we're eventually going to be talking about.
absolutely. Now I'll go on to explain this a little further.
Have you seen Midsummer, by the way?
I have, yeah, only on a laptop. I stopped watching about a quarter of the way through, so I haven't. I started to watch it rather. Sorry,
I actually haven't seen the whole thing. I don't mind it. I think it's a pretty good movie.
I want to watch it on a TV properly. Now,
Mm.
what I'm going to say here it always upsets people. I've been blocked for just saying this. Just because if you don't feel scared, shocked, or disgusted by a horror film, doesn't mean it's not a horror film. Doesn't mean that it's a bad horror film or that the horror genre is dead. It's subjective. I think sometimes what this means is that this person lacks some empathy. Or that's an extreme case. If they don't lack empathy, they can't just enjoy a film for what it is, and they just go in as a cynical little bitch and basically go, "Oh, well, this movie's not going to scare me."
Or a movie was originally groundbreaking, but it's been copied so many times that now it's become a trope.
Yeah, sure. Like most of the horror films in the 80s, again.
Yeah, like a lot of the slasher movies, very.
The point is, it's all subjective, and just because the viewer is, I don't have a lot of respect for the viewer. The viewer is the lesser entity in all of this, and just again because they're not. Oh, that movie didn't scare me. That's not a good horror movie. Define horror. My goodness, it becomes such a tiresome. It's so tiresome because they think it has to appeal to them or it's not that thing, whatever it is. That movie wasn't romantic. That movie wasn't funny. It's not a good comedy. Well, again,
I think defining horror is an interesting thing though, because there are some movies which are clearly horror. Maybe it's some supernatural thing or something, right? It's clearly a horror movie. But when you get into slasher movies, it gets a little bit more gray because it blends into, say, crime movies.
Well, sure, I get what you're saying.
It's a great example of that.
That's not a slasher movie though. But slasher movies are meant to shock or disgust. Period. That's what they're.
Yeah.
Just because the audience isn't shocked or disgusted doesn't mean that it's a bad slasher movie. I wasn't shocked or disgusted by Hatchet, but that's because I've seen 300 other slasher movies in the past.
Mm.
I'm desensitized to this shit.
Yeah, but Seven's probably a good example because that's clearly a serial killer, crime movie, but it's also horror, though, isn't it?
It's a horror film. It's a drama, horror, crime, sure, absolutely. So is Silence of the Lambs.
Mm.
Yeah.
Again, famously, the Academy in 1991 didn't want to call Silence of the Lambs a horror movie. That's where this whole fricking term of psychological thriller came from. No,
Have you ever seen Magic?
No.
Oh, really?
I don't think so.
Oh,
we always have so many freaking movies to watch after we do one of these episodes. The list just keeps growing and growing.
You'd love Magic. I'll find a copy for you later. Don't worry.
Well, we've been on this tangent for a little over an hour. Should we actually maybe talk about the movie now?
No.
I think it's time.
I think we've been building up to it. So
yeah, definitely.
I'll touch on the define horror thing one more time. We can't define horror is defined by what the word means, right? Like, again, horror literally means an intense feeling of fear, shock, or disgust. Children screamed in horror. Again, I brought this out. It's the same dictionary term. I have it out here right next to me in a physical dictionary and on Google. The term is the same, and this is a dictionary from 1978. It's exactly the same.
So what you're saying is
subjected to newspeak yet.
So what you're saying is when Neil Breen gets his top off and gets in the pool, that makes it a horror movie.
His face being on screen made it a horror movie. He's fucking terrifying.
A horror film. But I'll elaborate on this. A horror film we can define as a film meant in some form or another to, breed to shock or disgust the audience or scare them or whatever. Whether or not somebody is scared by any film, I don't know. I don't even know what to mention at this point. I'll mention Hereditary. That's irrelevant. It doesn't mean that it's not a horror film because it's not frightening to that person. That's ridiculous. That's just a ridiculous. I've heard this so much. That movie.
I think this person is trying to get that it must be trying to cause fear in order to be classified as a horror film. But I mean, horror comedy isn't really meant to be frightening. It's usually meant to be funny. But
but it's making fun of the tropes though that are in horror movies.
Yeah, exactly. But it's still horror.
It's not necessarily making fun of the tropes. It's a horror movie that is also a comedy, or it's a comedy with horror elements.
Yeah.
Again, it's all subjective. It's all subjective. Yes, I would tend to agree that a horror film should set out to, scare, shock, or disgust the viewer. Whether or not it succeeds doesn't change the fact that it's a horror film.
Mm-hmm.
That's irrelevant. You can't say that The Exorcist isn't a horror film because it failed to scare, shock, or disgust you. That's a ridiculous argument that I've actually heard people make. They say, "Oh, that's not a horror film."
When somebody tells me something doesn't scare them and it's not a horror film, it's just
that movie wasn't scary. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't.
Well, you could argue if it fails to scare them that it's a bad horror movie, but it would still be a horror movie, wouldn't it?
But it's just bad to them because
fear
is subjective, right?
Like
the Grudge.
Although I'm sure there are some horror movies which are so bad that it fails to scare anyone.
Oh, yeah. Except maybe small children.
Not all opinions are valid.
Yep.
Tell me that The Exorcist isn't a horror movie. Tell me that The Exorcist isn't a good horror movie. Say that.
I believe it is a horror movie, and it is a good horror movie. So I'm not going to tell you that.
No, it doesn't matter if you believe it or not. From a technical filmmaking perspective, not an art perspective. That's truly subjective. But just from a technical filmmaking perspective,
well, just the fact that it's a supernatural theme to it would automatically make it a horror movie, wouldn't it?
It would, and there's no argument that it is. The point is, even just from a technical filmmaking point of view, nobody can argue that it's a bad film and have that be valid. That is an invalid statement. It's an invalid assertion. That
even before I actually sat down and watched The Exorcist, because I was pretty sheltered for a lot of my early years, wasn't allowed to watch a lot of anything. I used to think The Exorcist was hilarious because I'd just seen all of like the pea soup, vomit, all that stuff taken way out of completely out of context of the movie, and it's hilarious.
And they've been made fun of. Those elements have been made fun of in other movies.
But like in the Scary Movie franchise, you name it.
Some of which have actually starred Linda Blair.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'll say that Scary Movie is not a horror comedy. It's a comedy straight up. There's no horror in it.
But even before I'd sat down and watched it, I wouldn't say it's not a horror film because I found it hysterical before I really watched it in context. After watching it, it's fucking terrifying.
Yeah.
But The Grudge still makes me laugh.
Oh, sure.
The atmosphere's lost on me. It just makes me laugh. But it's still a horror movie.
Subjective. You could not make the argument that The Grudge is not a horror movie.
No, exactly. It's still a horror movie. It just isn't. It doesn't.
If you were to say that,
on any level,
or anybody were to say that is a non. It's completely moot. It means nothing. That opinion, that assertion is absolutely worthless and should be crumpled up and thrown out. It literally means nothing. It has no. It's not based on anything with any, it's not down to earth at all. There's nothing there. It's just a baseless assertion.
Like, that's why I think people don't really argue about what is an action movie. We all know what an action movie is, but because it never fails to be what it's meant to be. For a horror film, a lot of the times, it will the actual the feeling of dread it's supposed to portray doesn't get across to the audience. Therefore, they want to reject it as a horror film.
Yes, that's fine.
It's the only genre I think that happens with a lot.
Oh, it does. That's why I get quite defensive about it. It's the so-called quote unquote opinion that a horror film is not a horror film because it didn't do this, that, or that is ridiculous. It's an invalid statement. I've been repeating this. It's completely invalid. It means nothing. It's a worthless opinion that it basically should either be laughed at, balked at, or just ignored completely.
I think that's the point I'm failing to get across. Having a conversation in the chat. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that just because something doesn't necessarily make you feel fear doesn't negate it being a horror film.
I can't, and it goes for any art form. I can't listen to, again, whether or not people think it's good or not is irrelevant. I can't listen to, say, I don't know, Cannibal Corpse and say, that's not death metal. Well, it is. It factually is. And any opinion to the contrary is worthless. That is any opinion saying, that's not death metal.
You know what? The Beastie Boys still aren't rock and roll. I will fight you.
My point is, there is no opinion. There is no debate. There is no argument to be made or had. The fact remains that it is what it is.
It's like I said, it's
bad death metal. It might even be bad death metal, almost to an inarguable point. But it doesn't change the fact that it is death metal.
Sometimes
you can't argue any other way. You simply can't. There is no argument.
Sometimes it's up for debate. Like with The Village, if M. Night Shyamalan had never come out and called it a drama, not a horror film,
then I would have no opinion either way.
Yeah, but it would be something worth discussing then, because
it would be a discussion. But as soon as somebody in that discussion says, nope, it's 100% a horror movie, that person is completely disregarded in my mind as being just an opinionated little, like, there's nothing there. Like, who's to say? Has the director actually said what it is? No. Okay, well, then all of our opinions mean jack shit. We can discuss it, but ultimately it means nothing.
So should we move on to the movie that we're going to discuss?
Yeah, Hereditary. All right. So
otherwise we'll never get around to it.
We will tangent about this for
hours. I haven't enjoyed this conversation. It's good, but I think we should move on.
It'll go on forever.
Pretty quick, I think.
We actually have this discussion just off air, the two of us, all the time about this kind of shit.
Yeah. People bring their opinions into it too much when there is no opinion to be had.
Except mine, which is always right.
Oh, always. I always take your opinion into account. I don't write it on toilet paper.
I'm enough of a woman for that statement to be.
And I'm humble too, and that's the other good thing about me. Very, very humble.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have the power.
I'm always right, and I'm humble.
I'm gonna mute you, dude.
So rude. Anyway,
your face is rude.
Not my fault.
Yeah, you were born like that.
Yeah.
You chose to be born that way. It's my opinion. Don't invalidate my opinion.
I've seen like several people. I know your face shouldn't look like that.
Yeah, why does it look like that? You should change it.
That's what she said.
Is that why she's not here anymore?
Maybe.
Oh.
In my opinion, it is.
Man.
Oh, anyway.
Turn on an opinions. I could
so
go on.
Hereditary, it opens up with some really awesome shots of miniatures. Really, really high definition, well done miniatures. And we get a bunch of that for the opening credits. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we get a slow zoom into a miniature, which turns into real life, which is probably one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. And it happens within the first 30 seconds.
Mm.
So We get Dad waking up. Okay. You did not mute yourself, by the way.
What?
You forgot to mute yourself.
Oh God! Hold on.
Asthma, isn't that fun? He'll be undying in a moment.
Yep.
So
Anyway,
anyways, so we get Dad who's waking up Peter, which is, I would say, our main character through most of the movie. For his grandmother's funeral. Oh no, he really did die.
Oh, he's been possessed. That's.
Oh, do we wait for him or do we just keep going?
Just keep going because he's seen the movie. He can jump in.
Oh yeah, that's very true. All right, so they all get ready. They go to the funeral, and I can't remember the mother's name. Annie is giving her mother's eulogy, and she's making some comments about how private of a person her mother was, and the fact that she, doesn't know a large number of the people that showed up for the funeral, and that it's, obviously at a eulogy you have to play nice, but we get the sense that they didn't have the best relationship.
This family seems to hate each other.
There you go. There we are.
Oh, you're over the other side now.
Yeah, that'll happen when somebody goes, I can fix it if you want.
That's all right.
All right, so Annie's giving a eulogy, and you can tell she doesn't necessarily have a very good relationship with her mother. And is it an open casket? It is an open casket.
It is an open casket. Yes.
Then the next camera shot is a point of view from the casket, and we see.
Why do people do that, by the way? Open casket. I mean, it seems cruel.
I've been to one open casket, and it was from one of my uncles, and my aunt actually hugged his corpse during the open casket. So I guess for some people it's cathartic.
It's a sense of closure, I guess.
Yeah, you get to say goodbye.
I just find it a bit creepy.
I find it creepy as well, in and of the fact that a funeral in and of itself is a sense of closure already.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge people that do that, I guess. It's just, I personally find it creepy. But if it works for them, that's good.
Yeah, no, it was like, some people just need that, I think.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely.
So we're sort of introduced to Charlie here, which is the daughter, who is fucking weird ass looking. The actress is so weird looking.
She is. She's seems to be a troubled kid too. She was. Did you mention that she was drawing something rather disturbing during the funeral?
She was just drawing. We don't actually get to see what it is. And
see it over. We kind of see it. It looked very, very black when.
Yeah. Dad reaches over and closes it very slowly, just as be respectful. We're at a funeral. Why are you scribbling?
Yeah.
You're in your little notebook. That's very rude. So we have a little bit of exposition here. She's eating a candy bar, and the dad comes over and says, don't spoil your dinner. There's no nuts in that, right? And of course,
that's what she said.
Yeah. Annie comes up all frantic. We start seeing that she's a bit of a frantic helicopter parent, going, oh my God, there's no nuts in that. Make sure there's no nuts in that because we don't have the EpiPen.
Yeah.
Setting up later on. Yep.
Yes. So very, very highly allergic to nuts.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, Annie is, after the funeral, they get home, and after yelling at Charlie to take off her socks before going upstairs, which I always just found kind of funny. It just further cements Annie's character as, or not Annie, sorry, Charlie's character is very flighty and forgetful and a strange child that needs to be
overbearing.
Yeah, well, Annie as a parent is overbearing too.
Yeah.
Charlie as a kid is also really forgetful and kind of rude without meaning to be. But
she, if I was going to describe her, she's really antisocial and just kind of wants to be left alone. She doesn't give a shit about everybody around her. She wants to be left to her own devices.
That's true. There is something that goes too far in her mannerisms, though.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, they get home and they separate as a family right after the funeral. I forget the dad's name. I always forget the dad's name.
Hang on one moment. Steve.
Steve. Okay, so Steve, gets a drink and whatever, and then checks in on his wife, who's painting miniatures, and this is where we really see the miniature room.
Which is very cool.
Which is her job. Yeah, the room is, it looks like at least like a 15 by 15 room in the house. It's just covered by like miniature dioramas.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess she's working on something for a client. I think it's like a real estate agent company or something like that. Anyway, so they have a little bit of a discussion, and Steve he seems to be the cement, the glue that holds the family together.
Yeah, he's your typical stoic.
Yeah. Seems like a nice guy, though. I actually really like Steve throughout most of the film. I do. I don't know if you do or not, but
I do too. He's very likable.
Yeah, so he checks in on Peter, the 16-year-old son.
He's okay.
Yeah, he just basically small words, basically. You feeling all right? Peter's just strumming his guitar. It just came from his grandmother's funeral, right? He can't be feeling too happy, even if he hated her, right? But
that sort of feels nothing. We get the impression that he just kind of feels nothing.
Yeah, he's going through the motions.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, he says, "Yeah, I'm all right. I'm doing okay. Good night." All this stuff, right? So then he goes to check on Charlie, and this is where we see Charlie's mental state, which is a little bit jumbled, just like her desk, I guess you could say.
It's actually Annie that checks on Charlie.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So we actually get to see their dynamic, which is a little bit it's because we get exposition, right? She explains to Charlie, how her grandmother, you were her favorite. She loved you so much. She wouldn't even let me breastfeed you. Like, it's oversharing to say that to your 13-year-old daughter.
12 or 13, yeah. And we finally get to see Charlie's sketchbook, too, which are just your standard black ink.
Kids drawing.
Yeah, crazy kid drawing, though. It's a little bit crazy. With
kids drawings in pencil all look crazy like that.
No, I know. But again, she's 13, and she acts like she's 6 a lot of the time.
She does.
She's very developmentally stunted. And I don't think that's from like any kind of injury. I don't think it's from an illness. I think it's just from her upbringing. I think Annie, as a helicopter mom, has basically done this to her, as well as just her personality, which is very antisocial and standoffish, which is perfectly fine. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. She overshares with her young daughter.
Yeah.
Too much. And Charlie wants none of it. She basically, Mom, why are you in here?
She does ask her mom, what happens if you die? Who's gonna look after me?
Well, yeah, that's a very poignant scene, actually.
But
Charlie asked her that, I knew that Charlie is having some issues.
She words it strange, though, at the beginning. She says, "Who's going to look after me?" And Annie gets offended and goes, "Well, I'm going to look after you." And then you can see her insecurity about her mother right there.
Yeah.
And Charlie responds with, "No, I mean, if you die."
Yeah.
And she goes, "Well, your dad and your brother, they love you. They'll look after you." Like,
and Satan.
For a long time, Satan.
Speaking of Satan, I should mention that Annie sees something strange on Charlie's wall at this point.
Yeah, a symbol.
It says, it's a word. It says Satan.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? But anyway, that's just a little bit of
We also see her fiddling a lot with a necklace that her mother was also wearing in the casket that we saw, which Charlie stole.
Yes, she did. Oh, yeah, that's another bit of exposition I think we both failed to mention is Charlie stole that necklace right out of the funeral.
Yeah, right. But she freaking grave robbed her own grandmother.
Yeah. I mean,
another reason you shouldn't have an open casket.
I mean, I'm going to give her a break because she's a very troubled 13-year-old girl. But I mean,
she's also kind of like possessed-ish.
Well, spoilers.
Spoilers. She also makes
aren't we all? Though,
noise all the time with her mouth that we should mention. All the time. I like that he ran out of the room and is looking at me. He forgot to mute his microphone again. Yeah, she makes this clicking sound with her mouth all the time. So we see her doing that a lot. And I believe the next day we see Charlie sitting in school, and this bird flies into the window. It actually scared the crap out of me the first time we were watching it. It was those one of those good jump scares that you're not really expecting, comes out of nowhere. And all the other kids, of course, are mortified, and Charlie's just dead-faced staring out the window. And she goes out, I guess, at recess and cuts the head off of this freaking pigeon, puts it in her pocket, and we see a woman standing across the street watching her. Just watching her, not really doing anything else. Oh. Why the fucking pigeon head?
I don't know. It's kind of symbolic for what we see later on, I guess. But
I guess lots of decapitation in this fucking movie.
Yes,
actually.
there is.
Spoilers. So
Like the French Revolution all over again.
She collects her pigeon head and is eating her chocolate bars as per usual.
Yeah. Did she wash her hands between?
I don't think so. I don't think it's shit.
Same.
Pigeon blood and chocolate goes good together, right?
So this movie's porn. Everybody gets head. It's not a horror movie. It's porn.
Ah, yes. Okay. Dreadful porn.
Yeah, it's my opinion.
Opinion. All right, so then we cut to Peter at school, and he gets I think it's normal actually. The first time we see him in school, he's looking at the girl's ass in front of him, and
Oh yeah,
sort of just normal.
Well, he's being a 16-year-old boy, basically.
Yeah. He gets a. Yeah, I think it's just a normal.
It is.
16-year-old boy at school.
I had to go away for a minute. Did you talk about Annie's little AA meeting?
No, she hasn't done that yet.
She has.
Has she? Oh, it was right away. Okay.
Well, it's the night of, so I guess it's within the time lapse of the movie. It's like the night of, basically.
Okay, so we can cut back to that then. The same evening, Annie tells Steve she's going to the movies, and she goes to a support group for people who've lost kids, I think specifically.
Yeah,
young people.
Yeah.
Or is it just loss in general? I think it's just loss in general. Because she goes to it about her mother.
That's right. Yeah, and then
the first time. So we get
and it is one of the best scenes in the movie too.
It is, because she is a great actress. She does Unhinged very well. We get more exposition about her mother and how Annie cut her off when Peter was born because she was trying really hard to completely take over his upbringing from her.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of people have mother-in-laws like that.
Yeah, but she just emotionally lets loose in that meeting. Yeah. It's great.
It's so well done.
Her performance, just overall, her performance is incredible.
I'd say she's probably my favorite part of this movie.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Every scene she's in, it's just...
Yeah, she steals the show, for sure.
So that whole experience just ends with her verbal vomiting a whole bunch of exposition on us about her mother.
Yeah.
And everyone's sitting there going, fuck.
I'm
Maybe
sorry.
my life's not too bad after all.
Yeah, could you imagine, like, well, I mean, when my grandmother died, I hated her fucking guts. I was so happy.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine if I felt some kind of guilt for hating her. That'd be awful,
That's
actually.
it. It's one of those things. It's different for different people.
Yeah, it's just
But with your grandma, it would have been better if she was a Satanist. So
she kind of, I mean, I guess she was a monster. Let's be fair.
that's what I mean.
She was a monster.
Being a Satanist would have been an improvement. So
Yeah, there you go.
Jehovah's Witness, Satanist, what's the fucking difference?
So I think this is about
Satanists have better music. Come on.
That's true. I might, you know what? If she was a Satanist, I might have been able to watch some movies when I was growing up.
Grandma would have had all the cool metal albums. Come on.
so,
You broke me.
welcome back.
Oh God! No, I'm picturing it.
So I think at about this point, Annie gets home in the evening and she gets a text message from them.
From who?
Just from from her employer. Sorry.
Oh yeah, they want to see some progression pictures of what.
It just hangs on, so it sticks in my head. Basically, it's
Yeah.
Send us pictures of your work in its current stage. We promise we won't judge.
We're very sorry for your loss.
Yeah, we don't want to bother you, but yeah, blah blah blah. Which is fair. I mean, they are the client, right?
And I'm sure they have a deadline or an event or something.
But anyway, she rolls her eyes at it, and this is when Charlie sees the image of the woman surrounded by fire.
I don't remember that.
No?
No.
It's that lovely overhead shot of Charlie in her red-orange sweater walking towards the sloped field just outside of the treehouse.
Oh, yes. Yes. Sorry. Yeah. No, I do remember that now.
Jumping ahead a little bit, it's just after the conversation that Annie has, this is really important, with Peter about the party.
Yeah, so yeah, we've jumped ahead a little bit.
Sorry about that.
We did discuss the pigeon beheading.
Yeah.
While you were indisposed.
Okay.
And, the lady across the street that was watching her.
Yeah.
And Peter had a regular, normal ass day at school that day, being a 16-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And then it segues into the evening, and Peter's smoking some weed in his bedroom, and he gets a text message, and he goes, and his buddy goes, "Oh, you want to go to a party?"
Yeah.
And he asks if that girl's going to be there.
Yeah.
Because 16-year-old boy. So he wants to go, and he goes and asks his mom if he can go to this party, and
he asks if he can borrow a car, one of the cars.
Yes.
Two vehicles.
Why? It's normal kid stuff, trying to just, without saying I'm gonna go to a party.
He's being a lying little prick in the nicest way right now.
Yeah, basically. She goes. She actually. This is probably the only time in the movie she was an appropriate parent.
Yeah.
Because he goes, "Oh, it's a barbecue with some friends," and she goes, "Are you going to be drinking?" And he goes, "No." And she goes, "You can tell me. I'm just asking. I want to know if you're going to be drinking."
Yeah.
And smart mom actually says you should take your sister, and I think that's actually probably a smart thing to do because she's young enough that.
Sorry, he has somebody to look after now, right? Is that?
Yeah, exactly. He has to remain at least semi-coherent to look after his little sister, make sure she's okay.
That's right.
Just trusting a 16-year-old to be mature and look after his younger sister at a party where there might be drugs and alcohol.
But she's not so young. She's not so young that she can't look after herself. She's 13. 13's not.
Oh, well, I'm sure it all turned out okay then.
Oh, yeah, it's totally fine. But, of course, they go to this party together, and Charlie doesn't want to fucking go because she's an antisocial, introverted young child.
Collecting pigeon heads.
Collecting pigeon heads and sticking them on weird little... Oh, yeah, we kind of skipped over her desk, which was a mismatch of stuff and little contraptions, and she sticks the pigeon head on this thing. I don't even know how to describe it because it's not humanoid.
No, it's just something she made.
She just makes things, and they're really just.
Oh yeah. She's just possessed to make things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mentioned the clicking, by the way, because it is important.
It is important.
It is important. So they go to this party, and of course, Peter wants to get high, and he finds the girl he likes, and he goes, he makes an ass of himself, and then goes, "Oh, do you smoke weed?" And she goes, "You got some?" He whips out this big fat bag of weed.
Yeah. And then he gets cock blocked. Oh.
Yeah. But I mean, she wants to smoke weed with him at least, I guess.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, she brings him up to the bedroom, and there's like 4 other people in there.
Not before he ditches his sister.
Ah.
And the way he ditches his sister is says, "Hey, look, they've got cake.
Yeah.
If you go up and ask them for a piece, I bet they'll give you some." And
Yeah.
she goes, "You're not giving it to everybody." He goes, "Just ask, they'll give you some cake."
Yeah.
And just before,
again, I feel Charlie here because she's very not okay in social situations. But even with all these drunk 16, 17, and 18-year-olds, I don't think, maybe 1 or 2 might, but I don't think anybody would make fun of Charlie.
oh, no, she's clearly very much younger than all of them.
So, like if he meant it. If you ask, they'll give you a piece. They'll be like, sure, here you go.
Assholes would be picking on her. And just before that, we saw.
And don't forget, don't eat any peanuts.
Oh,
Yeah.
That would be bad.
Are there nuts in that?
Yeah, she was cutting a big pile of nuts before.
Yeah.
Just before this. So we all know that there's fucking nuts in that cake. But
That's what she said.
Ah,
I have no idea what that means. But anyway.
you got to get better at them. You're disappointing me. Come on. So she eats this cake, of course, and then her throat starts closing, and she starts drinking water, trying to alleviate. And eventually it must get to the point where she's freaking out because she goes to find Peter, and he's like, what's wrong with you? And she says, "I think my throat's closing."
And he leaves with her immediately.
I don't have a nut allergy, but if I did, wouldn't it be smart to carry around an EpiPen?
Always.
Would have been smart for her to have one. Yeah. But Charlie is such an absent-minded kid.
Yeah.
Peter, I'm not making an excuse for Peter. I think Peter, as a 16-year-old brother, should have brought one for her just in case.
But he's a stoner.
He's a stoner, and you know what? Her helicopter parent mother should have remembered.
Yes.
So, yeah, I was just about to say, she probably should have said, put an EpiPen in the car or something like that.
Because he was already high. Like,
yeah. But I mean, Peter at this point in the story is freaking out. He feels awful. He just wants to get Charlie to a fucking hospital.
He's rushing her to a hospital. He does it like
and he's stoned, so he's probably paranoid as all fuck too.
Yeah, but he drops everything he's doing and goes immediately. So good for him for that.
They're racing down this back road where they live.
And highway.
And really she opens the window and says, "Peter, I can't breathe." And she opens the window and
sticks her head out trying to get air.
Trying to breathe.
I'm sure that's a good choice.
Oh yeah. And he swerves to avoid a dead deer in the road. And she gets completely decapitated on a telephone pole.
She makes really good friends with that telephone pole.
Yeah.
That happened to me once.
But now I have to say, I don't know the actor's name, I forget, but his performance in that one scene is
Alex Wolff.
His performance, Alex Wolff's performance is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredible throughout the whole film, but in this
he's like completely in shock here.
But he knows she's dead. He goes to turn around, and get on his face, and he goes, no, and then the shock takes over. That's it.
He just autopilots home. He probably drove 10 kilometers an hour all the way back to the house.
He just a single tear runs down his face, and he
goes to bed with his shoes on.
He drives up. Yeah.
And he lays there.
And waits all night. He probably didn't sleep all night. He just waited.
And then in the morning, we hear Annie get up, the front door open.
Yeah, we hear Steve and Annie just like converse a little bit, this and that.
Normal morning stuff.
Yeah. Bye. See you after work.
Come in. So what time did they come in? Oh, they came in around midnight, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
and then this is one of Toni Collette's, the actress's, Annie's best performances. The scream that comes out of her.
And then the meltdown. The meltdown. The I want to die.
Yeah.
Oh. It made me want to reach through the TV and hug her. Like.
And this meltdown is, the audio is about 20 seconds of it is over Charlie's deformed head being eaten by ants on the side of the highway. It is.
So you're going to feel sorry for Peter because, he obviously didn't intend for his sister to be killed. Basically, that's the end of his life at that point, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even if the other things that happen later on weren't going to happen, it's still the end of his life. I mean, how do you get over something like that?
Yeah.
The guilt forever.
That I think we all know that this isn't a straight arrow horror film, but if it was, and everything was just as it appeared to be, it would still. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. His life would be over at this point. That's it. He would never be the same again.
No.
And I mean, poor guy. I felt sick for him too watching this. He didn't mean for any of this to happen. Sure, he went out and got stoned at a party, but come on, right?
Yeah, but he's 16-year-old.
Yeah,
he's a teenager. He should be able to have a little bit of freedom and go to a party without having to look after his younger sister.
Yeah, and but oh my God, and his mother's wailing this, and it goes on for 3.5 minutes.
Oh yeah, because it's basically her meltdown for 3 minutes, but it's overarching the decapitated head
and him standing in the hallway listening to them, probably wanting to go in there and going, "Oh my God!" But
I'm sorry, but how do you even apologize for that?
Yeah, well, yeah,
and she's screaming, and then we get the funeral, which is just kind of, it's obviously not an open casket.
I was going to say, I can't remember. Was that what, an open casket or not?
and she's still having a meltdown, and the meltdown continues for quite a while.
Yeah,
and
she's upstairs sleeping during the whole funeral, basically.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, honestly, if I go to.
This is where I feel really bad for Steve too, as.
Oh yeah, he's trying really
right. He hurt. You can tell his performance is amazing too. You can tell, you can see it on his face that he hurts right now. He's hurting so bad, but he's trying to hold it together.
He's one of the most well-written stoic fathers I've seen in a movie in a long time.
Yeah, he's just a really nice man. He is. He's a very kind, understanding.
And he goes he doesn't. He is strong for his family and grieves alone. He goes into her room after the funeral.
That's really hard to watch.
It's so good.
He is actually in her room looking just through her
drawings, and then he gets to the end and realizes there's not going to be any more.
That's right. And I need to mention the last drawing in her. This is more exposition for the people that really pay attention. Her last drawing is the pigeon head with a crown.
Yeah.
So again, cue the sound. That's right. But it's all
very important.
His realization that that's the last one, and his breakdown it's incredible to watch, but it's really hard to watch.
I'm gonna cry just thinking about it.
The performances in this film are second to none. I think
there's not a bad actor amongst the four of them.
No. This is, I think, the point where Annie starts sleeping in the
treehouse.
Yes,
which Charlie liked to sleep in as well. And it has a heating lamp out there which glows really red, which is really creepy, but very cool. And I think she sleeps out there almost exclusively because she can't deal with her grief.
Yeah, she deals with her grief in a healthy way for a while. I think what she's doing right now is healthy at this point.
Oh,
I think
yeah, she needs to have the meltdown. I think
she's
it's with
working through
losing
that
her
grief.
13-year-old daughter.
Yeah, but as
She's
we find
very
out,
mad at Peter, which is not fair.
as we find out later in the film, though, it really starts to take a toll, not only on Steve and Annie's marriage, but their entire family.
Yeah.
And it becomes a point where we all understand that yes, you're having a meltdown, but there's something wrong here.
Yeah, it does actually paint her as like insane.
It does a little bit. So from what I remember, Peter just kind of. Oh wait. Okay, I have the movie up. Actually forgot I have it up on screen.
Well, she spends a lot of time in her studio, and we find out she's not really making her work miniatures anymore. She's creating. She recreates the accident.
She does. Just before that, though, I need to interject.
Yep.
We see Peter have a major panic attack under the bleachers at school.
Yeah, we see
an insane anxiety attack.
And he's getting high and then has a total freak out.
He does it really well too. They really research this. He puts his hand to his left chest because it feels like a heart attack.
Yeah.
I've had one of these before. I know what it's like. It actually feels like a heart attack. You can't breathe. It feels like there's crushing in your chest and your jaw hurts and you taste metal. It's the same as a heart attack.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Breathe.
Yeah. Should he even be back at school? I have to ask.
Well, no. It's hard to say how long it's been. Honestly, gathered it's been a few weeks at this point. So maybe it's about time to.
Sometimes when you are grieving, if you start going back and getting some normalcy, if you wallow in grief, you won't never come out of it. It's actually healthier to go back.
For a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah.
But after his panic attack, he comes home on his bike after school.
Which is when they probably should have taken him back out of school for a little while. Yeah. But they don't.
He didn't tell anybody about it. He had a panic attack and he came home. He just came home on his bike.
Steve know? I think Steve knows. I think he told his dad.
Well, he might have after the fact, but not during. Annie is sleeping in the car. Yeah. And Peter, his body language here.
Oh, no, she's not sleeping. She's waiting. She's waiting in the car, and when she sees him get home, she fucking leaves.
Peter's body language, though, he's holding his fists out and shaking because he doesn't want to go inside. He doesn't want to face her because he feels so guilty at this point. He can't stand it. I can only imagine.
Guilt would be.
Yeah. So Annie, like a psychopath, is waiting for him to get home, and immediately upon him going inside, she starts the SUV and drives off.
And he knows he could hear her leave. He knows that she's blaming him, and
so this is when she goes to the group again, but she changes her mind, and this is when what's her face comes into the equation. I can't remember her name.
I think. Oh gosh.
It's one of the ladies from the group. What?
Joan.
Okay. Joan.
I don't know the actress's name, but I've seen her in a lot of stuff lately.
She's in a lot of things. She was in a lot of the Conjuring movies, and oh my goodness,
she was in the TV show The Leftovers.
Yeah,
I think she was in. God, what's that TV series with the where the women are?
The Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
She's a lot of stuff.
She's just got a recognizable face. She's one of those bit actresses that just shows up everywhere.
Plays secondary characters in a lot of things.
Yeah, it's just great.
It's probably a very good living doing that.
Oh yeah.
Well, she's
very good. Be on set for a couple of weeks at a time.
She is the fifth character in this movie, the fifth main character, and she's just as good as the other four.
Do you want to know something funny? Something the movie that I know her from was a movie I watched as a kid, Shiloh 2.
With the dog.
With the dog, yeah, she was in that. Anyways, Joan shows up And she stops Annie in her car and says, I saw that you were going to go in. Are you okay? Are you sure you don't want to come in? And Annie's very reluctant until Joan says, I lost my grandson.
Yeah.
And I think this is when Annie says, I lost my 13-year-old daughter.
Mm-hmm.
How old was your grandson? We find out he was 7. They bond over losing somebody so young.
Well, Annie has a really sincere reaction to her grandson, which is like, my God, Jesus. Like, I could only imagine. Right? Yeah.
It makes her feel understood because this person clearly empathizes with her and understands.
So Joan gives Annie her phone number, and
says, call me.
If you need to talk, just give me a call.
Yeah. And then we cut again, I believe, to Annie tossing and turning and leaving to go and sleep in the treehouse again. And I think Steve and her have a little bit of an argument here. I wouldn't call it an argument, but he's clearly starting to feel rejected. He tries to touch her and she pulls away, gets out of bed, leaves, goes to sleep. And she says, I'll be back. And he goes, no, you won't. So they're already having serious issues dealing with Charlie's death.
No.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of when the infamous dinner happens. If that happens before or after.
Oh.
Calls Joan. I think it's before. Has to be before she calls Joan and goes to see her.
I think it is before, yeah. But this is when right after that is when I should mention that Steve and Annie are starting to have some problems too, because it's been weeks at this point, I think.
Steve's starting to lose his patience and he's starting to get angry because he knows that Peter won't be able to live and forgive himself without Annie forgiving him. And she's the adult and that's her son and she needs to do that for him.
Yeah, I can understand her point of view though. She's still emotional after the death of her daughter.
I can understand her point of view too,
and she's looking for someone to blame. I mean, it's perfectly reasonable, but you're right.
It's reasonable to a point. Again, at this point in the story, man, it's probably been weeks, at least a month. Yeah. And, all Steve did was reach over and touch her on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Bed. And as soon as he did, she gets up and goes,
shut down.
Go sleep. Complete. Yeah. Right? And who knows? And she was like, oh, whatever. And who knows? All he might have wanted to do is go, hey, you okay?
Yeah.
Who knows? And even if whatever.
Just wanted to hold her.
Whatever the reason.
I mean, I've never had kids, so I've never obviously lost a kid. I imagine it's something, which is really hard to get over, especially a decapitation like that, I imagine it takes some time to get over.
My impression from that was that he was looking for comfort from her, from his partner for once, and she.
Oh yeah. I don't blame him, but I think people deal with something like that differently.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. I get it. Absolutely. But again, at this point, it has been probably weeks. And we, as the audience, are supposed to think that Annie is going batshit insane because she's
not showing any signs of improvement.
Right now, she is not grieving like a normal person would. She needs therapy at the very least.
Because we talked about the miniature, her recreating the accident, and she's like totally nonchalant about it.
She's like, "Oh, I was just doing it for." That's not healthy. That's actually sick.
Of course, Steve's worried about his son coming in and seeing that because that would be fucking traumatic for him.
Yeah. I'm just, laying down the facts, basically, is what she said. That's insane. That is insanity.
But it's not
cathartic for her, but it's a little morbid.
No, she's not thinking rationally, but at this point, if she is not reacting to rational therapy from her family, then she is no longer sane.
Yeah,
She is no longer dealing with this in a way that is healthy.
She needs.
Oh yeah, look, I agree it's not healthy, but I'm not surprised either. I think a lot of people would probably react that way.
No.
Parents would just kill themselves.
Yeah.
So they only had one child, yes.
Yeah. No, even if they have more than one, it's just the grief, right?
The crux of the scene, though, is how she reacts to even wanting to comfort her partner. That's the whole point. Yeah. Where he just touched her, and she was like, oh, I'm going to the treehouse. I can't sleep. Yeah. It's like, fuck you, bitch. It's like, come on. Like, you've got a family, too. Your husband is grieving. Your son is grieving.
Yeah, she's really self-centered about it.
Yeah, she's being so fucking selfish.
Yeah.
The performance is incredible, but the character is unlikable at this point.
So unlikable.
I understand her. I get it, but I do not like her.
Yeah. I think this is we're getting to the infamous dinner.
Yeah.
Cuz she
after that, again, I'm kind of watching the movie off and on in the background. Mm-hmm. This is when Peter starts to hear the tongue click.
Yes. He's having nightmares, and I would call them night terrors because they're almost waking.
Yeah.
They feel very real. He is seeing Charlie in the corner of his bedroom, and he's hearing that tongue clicking sound that she makes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like he needs help from. He needs his mother to forgive him.
Yeah. Or
guilt is eating him alive.
It might take.
Can we just agree that the whole family needs intensive therapy?
Yeah, I would say so.
I think it's too much to just go, hey, Mom, can you forgive me? I think that's too much. I think what is appropriate in this case is, hey, Mom, can we talk about this?
Yeah. Even if they fought, it would be.
She's not in the state to talk, though.
Yeah. No, she's not. But Miss Anana's right. Even if they fought, they yelled and screamed and threw shit in the corner of the room. Oh. That's healthy in this situation to get that out of your system, and to say those awful things you don't mean. All of us say things we don't mean when we're really angry. That's just a human thing, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if she said something really awful to him, that could actually make him worse.
Yes, it could. But, even if they did argue, it could still be.
I would like to think that if she said some horrible things to him, that she would feel immediately bad and apologize. And I think it would be the beginning of an actual real forgiveness, because she's not saying anything. She's so angry inside, and he knows she's angry, but they won't talk about it. They need to have they need to have an altercation.
She's pretending she's not angry. He knows that she is. Now, her insanity runs so deep at this point that she is actually, with her fine-tipped little paintbrush, writing Satani where it was in Charlie's room.
Yeah.
That's how much detail is in her head at this point. And at that scene, this is where she goes to visit Joan. I guess she calls her.
Actually, before that dinner happens?
Yeah, it's before, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, I'm surprised, because I thought once that happened, she got all giddy about trying to summon. I thought that happened.
I think that's after their first visit. I think that's with Joan's second visit when she sees her later in the parking lot.
You're right. Okay, so they do have one visit that's sort of quasi-normal. They don't do the summoning thing the first time.
Yeah. So Annie describing the body of Charlie to Joan is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
She says that her blood looked like tar, like tar, and her head wasn't there. Like, I can only imagine seeing that, going outside in the morning thinking you're going to go to work, and then seeing your decapitated 13-year-old daughter. Like, I can't. I don't think I can even process that.
And
like,
when Annie gets there, she makes a comment about this custom knit rug.
Yeah.
Doormat that she's got.
It says Joni. Yeah.
It says, my mother used to make things really similar to this.
Yes.
Dum, dum, dum.
So yeah, they just have a normal like tea time that time.
Oh yeah, they grieve together and they talk. Yeah.
So she leaves feeling, I think, a little bit better. And
no, I have to mention one thing that you forgot. It's very important when she explains to Joni about her sleepwalking. Now, I'm going to explain this.
Yes.
Basically, I'm going to just kind of explain what she said. I'm kind of watching, but not really. I'm going to try to go from memory here. She explains to Joni that she used to sleepwalk, or maybe still does, but she woke up above Peter, and I think Charlie as well, both of them, but maybe just Peter. Actually, I want to find out for sure. Anyway, she woke up above one or both of them, covered in paint thinner, with a match ready to be struck. And Joni's face at this point is actually not one of surprise, which is very telling. And it's very obvious to the audience that it's not a face of surprise, which I think, I'll explain why later, I think is the film's only misstep in terms of narrative. It was both of them, by the way. Yeah, both Charlie and Peter. She had drenched them and herself in in paint thinner and was ready to strike a match when they woke up. So yeah, and that's basically it. End scene. But Joni did not look surprised at all. There wasn't even any concern on her face. Just kind of blank. Almost a nod. So at this point, when she gets home, this is when the miniatures of the accident really start to get insane, where she even does Charlie's head.
Oh yeah, she's all zoomed up on it, painting it.
Yeah, she's painting the blood running off of her ant-eaten head. She's even got the telephone pole. And this is when she said, we both made a mistake, that she says, it's a neutral view of the accident.
Yeah. And she's very nonchalant about it. It's just a neutral view of the accident.
Yeah, I'm sure that's healthy.
Yeah, and Steve is very much, and he goes, oh, you want me to come down for dinner? I don't know if I want to make it. And Steve goes, I'm making dinner. Come down if you want. Stay, go. I don't give a fuck. And he walks away in a huff.
Yeah.
It's hell, right? Maybe that wasn't the right way to go about it, but he's
had enough of her lunacy at this point.
Yeah. Like, I'm not saying that was the right way to go about it, but I mean, we all have the right to lose our temper. So
he's only human, and he's lost a child too. So you know,
and she
a
is
lot of marriages end after something like this because neither one of them can deal with
the other.
Yeah,
the whole thing, and it sucks. But he, at this point, I hate to use the word side, but he has been trying to offer her comfort and solace, and she has not only not offered him that, but completely deprived him of it, and it's very cruel.
And he's really worried about Peter.
Yeah,
because he can see the toll it's taking on Peter.
So
this basically walking on eggshells in his house. He's terrified of his own mother.
Yeah. So this is the dinner. This is the best performance out of these three people in the entire film. It's amazing. Yeah. They're sitting down, very quiet. Peter says, Dad, this is really good. And Steve's like, yeah, no, thank you. Yeah. Just the standard stuff, right?
And he makes this big
and Annie goes scoffs, right? And you can tell that Peter's trying not to say anything. He's trying really hard, but he's pissed. But he finally snaps and goes, "Is something you want to say to me? Like, do you want to say something in a nice tone too? Like, he goes, are you okay?"
And Steve, right in there, I don't think we want to do this. Oh, but it explodes.
Yeah, Peter makes the mistake of saying to his mother, "Is there something on your mind?" And Annie goes, "Why? Is there something on your mind?" Like totally nonchalant, right? Like, What's the matter?
Very sarcastic in tone. Like she's just dripping with attitude.
And she's insane. Like that's insane. That is an insane. So she accuses both of them of sneering at her and talking behind her back, and
she's a lunatic. Being a lunatic.
And Steve is watching this, literally watching this, just going, "Oh no!" Like,
and you know, like I said, they needed to have a fight.
They did, yeah. But Peter pretty much starts begging her to just say it, right? And then she does. She freaks out.
Yeah.
She actually has the audacity to say, "All I do is worry and slave to defend you, and all I get back is this attitude."
Meanwhile, it's her projecting herself onto him.
Yeah.
I feel sick for that boy watching this movie because he descends into lunacy, complete lunacy. I think Steve is the only one that keeps his freaking brain up until the end for him.
Basically, she screams at him and blames him for everything.
Yeah.
And as Peter even brings up, you know what, Mom? If you didn't make her go to that party, she would still be alive. And she didn't even acknowledge that. Complete denial. Total denial.
Because he's actually, what he said is she didn't even want to go.
She didn't even want to go. But anyway, he's thinking she didn't even want to go, but you made her.
Yeah.
You bitch. Yeah. And she would, and again, if she didn't make her, she'd still be alive.
I would say it
let her. This is my brain thinking here. Maybe she should have let her uncomfortable antisocial daughter just stay home.
Yeah. Maybe she should have remembered her fucking EpiPen.
As opposed to making her go out and do something she didn't even want to do and would be completely miserable doing. Maybe she should have been a good mother and listened to her daughter.
Yeah. Oh man, I used to hate when my parents tried to force me to be sociable. I hated it.
It's ridiculous. I get it. She's only 13, but my goodness, have a fucking brain. So, but anyway,
what do you really think?
Some kids aren't social, and that's okay.
That is what I really, really think, and it's. I
mean, like I said, if she's gonna blame him, she has to take some of the blame on herself because it was a fucking accident.
I don't blame her for it.
It was nobody's fault. It was nobody's fault.
It's the way it is. It was a really shitty series of events that just
snowball got worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah.
But basically,
if they didn't play the blame game, they'd be having a much easier time.
That's right. It just makes more sense.
And it's normal to do that, but it's not normal to do that for as long as she's been doing it, especially to her own son.
Yeah.
He's a teenage boy. He's 16. He's still a kid. She's a fucking adult. You need to be able to control your emotions a little bit better as an adult. So
I guess what I gathered with my first viewing of this movie is that there's something going on behind, like underneath the surface here.
Mm-hmm. There is obviously something otherworldly going on. We've seen it a few times.
Well, I don't know if it's otherworldly. I didn't know if it was truly otherworldly at this point.
Well, we did see those.
I know what we saw. But
I'm just gonna throw out there. We saw those orbs when nobody else was awake.
Those lights. Yeah. That's right.
We saw them. They actually have been reoccurring since the beginning. If you pay very close attention, basically it's their grandmother.
Mm-hmm. That orb, that light, is what made Charlie walk out to the burning woman in the first place.
Yeah. So that light's been flickering around the house.
Did you mention that when I was away, or
what's that?
Did you mention the light when I was away, or the orb, or?
No, I forgot about it actually until now.
We should explain that. There's this kind of strange.
It looks like a sun glare.
It looks like a sun glare, or if you were to shine a flashlight through a fishbowl in broad daylight.
Yeah, and then move it around.
So it kind of starts from, say, a window, and it goes. It's just like a ring of light.
Yeah.
That goes from the window out through all walls of the room and travels into a point at the other wall, and then travels back out It's really, really hard to explain what it looks like. But
It just looks like a sun glare. It looks like somebody's glaring the sun and pointing it in a bunch of directions. Actually, a lot of sci-fi movies use it for alien type things.
Ah, yes.
Yeah. If you watch a lot of sci-fi, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
You know what you're talking about.
It just looks like a sentient sun glare.
Sentient Sun Glare. That's my favorite band from the 90s.
So yeah, that's been hovering around, and I think that obviously is heavily manipulating. And I think Annie was already fragile enough that she was the weak link.
A little unhinged, yeah.
It's certainly using her to it's using her to break everybody else down because it needs them all weak in order to infiltrate, which we find out later, obviously.
Charlie may have been used too.
Oh yeah, that was pretty manipulated, I'm pretty sure.
We'll get to that. But yeah, there's definitely something sinister going on here.
Annie mentions that with the obsession her mother had with Charlie.
Yeah.
Like
that's strange.
To the point where she was like taking over parenting her.
Yeah. So at this point, Annie goes to the art store. The art supply store, to pick up whatever she needs. You know, this, that, or the other thing, paintbrushes, paint.
Tiny little heads for diorama.
Doll heads, everywhere is doll heads.
And when Joan, surprisingly, air quotes, sees her, it just didn't seem like a surprise to me, even upon.
Oh, she's so frantically excited because she's had a religious experience.
Yeah, Joan sees her from across the park. Annie! Oh my goodness, Annie! And she explains to her in the parking lot, Annie, I've had this amazing experience. I saw my grandson. It was a seance.
I know what you think. I know what you're thinking, but there was skeptics there, and it just, you have to let me show you. Come over, please let me show you.
Yeah, so she does. He goes because, well, maybe, I guess.
She likes this lady, anyways, because she was really nice to her before, so why not? May as well go.
Yeah.
I'm losing my mind anyways, so.
Yeah, so they go and immediately start the seance. That's the next scene, and they're with a one candle, and they're kind of holding hands over a glass, and Joan goes, you know, I can't remember her grandson's name, but if you're here, Louis,
yeah,
Louis, if you're here, move the glass.
Louis,
yeah, the glass moves. Louis, Louis, he moves the glass, I guess, right? So Annie looks under the table right away. There's got to be a magnet or something.
Yeah.
And nope, there's nothing.
She whips out that chalkboard.
Yeah, and then it moves a little bit more, and Annie just looks like, well, maybe. You can see it on her face, you know. And then she feels a little gust of wind and freaks out. She wants to get up and just run the fuck out of the house. That's it. And then the chalkboard comes out.
Yeah. And then Joan is explaining to her how to do this. She goes, look, I know you're freaking out. I did the same thing. Let me show you how to do it. She gives her this piece of paper. She says, you need to read this, every line, and you need something connected to Charlie. Mine was the chalkboard. Just pick something, and you can contact her the same way I contacted Louis. To go home, calm down, and try it.
So take one of the heads from her collection of pigeon heads, you mean?
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Oh, yeah, just open up the drawer filled with pigeon heads. Take one.
I want to throw something out here. The first time we watched this, I had suspicions and still have suspicions that seance that she was given was not the same seance she used to contact her grandson. I think she really did contact her grandson.
Well, that's an interesting theory.
In the context of this movie, I think it's very possible that was a thing that actually happened, that she did contact her grandson, and she used that to get Annie to do a different incantation.
You know, that's
Can I ask something? Can I suggest something?
Mm.
She might not even have a grandson.
Maybe not.
But I think what Miss Anon is saying is that the nature of the communication and what it said and how it said it. I think that's a sound theory.
Yeah, I think
It's just a little convenient though that she's lost a grandson and he's lost a daughter. I mean, it just sounds like a story to me.
Wait, if you got a cult, they had a lot of cult members. They could have sent anybody to her. I think they picked her on purpose.
Sure, that's true. It's an interesting theory. I personally think that more likely it's whatever entity is awful and evil, just acting, pretending to get in. Mostly because, again, heavy spoilers here, folks. Cover your ears. She shows up in pictures that are 20 years old.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, but I don't think she would be able to. I don't think. See, the way. I mean, obviously, this is fantasy, but the way incantations work is if
suspend disbelief.
If she summoned him, whatever their god is, I can't remember what they call it.
Yeah.
Palin or something like that.
Something like that.
Certainly not Pazuzu.
Summon him. He's never been. I don't think he can make contact. His soul was trapped within Charlie.
Yeah.
Right. So
spoilers.
Spoilers. So I don't necessarily think it would be possible for her. And I think that if she tried to contact, it would immediately try to. It tries to possess the weakest link, which is what happens when Annie does it.
Sure. No, that's again, it's a sound theory. I think it definitely is on the back burner for the film.
I mean, I'd have to ask the director, but I think it's possible. It's just
very neat theory. That you're right about a couple things too. So it's definitely a cool theory.
Anyways, Annie goes home with this incantation.
Yeah.
And I guess she calms down enough and decides, okay, I'm gonna try this. And
after she freaks out in the car.
Yes.
And goes home and has the nightmare, the night terror with the ants. She wakes up with ants on her pillow.
Yeah, and follows them and finds them all over Peter.
Yeah, there's a line of sugar ants, the way they operate.
Yeah.
A line. And she just slowly walks into Peter's bedroom, and his face is like he's dead, and he's covered
just
in
like Charlie's face, basically. Yeah. And she starts freaking out and starts to try to brush them off and shakes him. And
she screams, and he wakes up.
He wakes up and is terrified. And then they have what I think is one of the more healthy interactions between the two of them, where she says, I wasn't trying to hurt you. I love you. I was an accident. Like
it is, but it's all a dream.
Yeah.
It's awful. This is another harrowing scene. This is a frightening scene in this incredibly frightening movie, in my opinion. She said, I never wanted you. I never wanted to have you. She just blurts it out, covers her mouth immediately. It's a speak no evil.
Yeah.
As she does the speak no evil thing where she covers her mouth with both hands. I never wanted to be your mother, she says.
Yeah.
And Peter, we don't know that she's dreaming at this point, the audience, but she was dreaming, and she explains, I was scared. I didn't know.
Yeah.
And Peter, the first time I saw this, my heart broke because Peter freaks out because he just woke up after all this. And he goes, why did you try to kill me? Because she tried to abort and everything. Professionally, probably was something not nice.
He took some things.
Yeah. And so Peter's like, how? Like, why did you try to kill me? And then she wakes up. And it's just this, the most horrifying dream I could think of. But she doesn't wake up until she sees flames under her. And she is all of a sudden completely soaking wet. So she's having a night terror about trying to burn her children to death with ink thinner, like she tried to do that one time. Which is another unhinged thing that it speaks to her insanity already, her underlying insanity, which I don't think has anything to do with any of this.
No, I think
her
lunacy is fed by whatever her mother's essence. Like she's in that house with them. That's what that sun glare is.
Yes.
Oh, has the father got the phone call about the grandmother's grave yet?
Yeah, that's just now.
It's just about to happen, but this is when Annie wakes Peter up for real and brings them both downstairs.
Yeah.
The seance.
Yep. And again, round of applause for the actor that plays Peter, because this is, I think, one of his best scenes.
And it's incredible. His breakdown is amazing and horrifying. But Annie, she's feeling manic at this point.
She's so excited. She just wants to show them, but they don't. They're both, like, Peter's scared. Steve's irritated.
Yeah.
Because she's been such a fucking lunatic. And she's like, just trust me, please, please. I love you. Trust me.
Yeah.
So they do this thing. She's done the incantation already, so she doesn't have to read it again. And they summon what they think is Charlie. I'm guessing it's not. Well, it is Charlie, because Charlie is Payman.
Well, spoilers.
Yeah, Charlie is Payman. So
You're a Palin.
Yeah.
Payman.
Payman. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. But at first, Steve is, and not at first, forever, Steve is having none of it. He has had enough. I mean,
Steve doesn't discredit what's happening.
No.
He just says, look at what you're doing to our son, who's having a fucking complete ballistic meltdown.
Yeah.
Like,
his, you mentioned his performance. Oh my God. His
sobbing and just broken. You can see he's got nothing left inside his brain. Nothing left.
Yeah.
So it's jello.
That's right. They're kind of arguing, like, please don't. And Peter's going, please stop. And Steve's going, fucking stop. Right.
Scaring him.
Yeah.
Look at your son. Look what you're doing to him.
Yeah. And then Steve finally turns on the lights and splashes water in Annie's face. And
that ends it.
Yeah. But things did happen. The glass moved and things happened.
Charlie was drawing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what started freaking Peter out, was, of course, because that's something that you wouldn't really be able to fake. There's a lot of ways to make glass move, and
you can do it with just water under a table if it pulls just right. You can do it with a wet.
The condensation will move glasses across tables.
Yeah, you can make it work.
You can fake a lot of things, but faking a pencil, getting up, and then drawing.
Yeah,
a little hard. It'd be a little sophisticated. You need some magnets and some.
It's pretty tough.
A little bit difficult, right? So, nobody's in denial that something happened, but it is scaring the shit out of Peter, and that's all Steve cares about, because Charlie's dead, and he's come to terms with that, and he's letting her go, like a normal person would when they suffer a loss.
He is. Now, the next scene in the movie is a close up of Peter in the miniature car with Charlie's decapitated head.
Yeah.
And on the wall, on the miniature house behind it, it says Pandemonium.
Yeah. Just when she trashes the crap out of her studio.
Yeah. Yeah. So that after Peter's sitting in bed thinking about this, but yeah, just that word Pandemonium, I think, gives the audience an idea of what's to come.
Yeah.
So what I mean is, at one point, Annie saw that in Charlie's bedroom, that word. Now Peter is in class the next day, and he sees that weird sunspot again.
Yep. And it draws his attention to his own reflection.
Yeah.
And
it starts in the middle of the floor and then pulses out into a ring.
We missed the incantation. No, we skipped a thing. We done skipped a thing when
this is directly after the incantation at
Joan curses him. Don't you remember? I invoke thee, Peter. I invoke thee. I remember this because he doesn't have a broken nose. He's out eating lunch one day at school. It's got to be before this, because he didn't have a broken nose in this scene.
No, that's true.
I think it maybe they happen really close together.
Maybe she hasn't done it yet. We don't know that Joan is an issue yet.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the broken nose, so
I know, but we don't know that she is a threat yet. We have no idea. So
do we see clearly that it's her
when
hurting him, or is it just
that happens later, and
is
it's
it later?
It's somebody else too. Yeah, this is
So-
the first viewing audience at this point thinks Joan is fine.
So he has a broken nose when she does that incantation then, or whoever it is.
I believe so, but it's not now. It's
I'm misremembering then.
Yeah, that's 40 minutes down the road, I think.
Okay. All right, so he's in class. He's been lured to look at his own reflection, and of course his reflection isn't doing what he's doing. I like this trope. It's been done a lot, but I don't usually find it it's not usually stupid. I usually enjoy when it's done where
what's wrong with something being done more than once?
Exactly. It's a trope, but it's a good trope.
If it were done more than once, all music would have died 500 years ago.
Yeah. It's a good trope. Some tropes are not great. This is a good one.
And film wouldn't exist at all. We wouldn't have any new movies since 1932 if things weren't done twice.
So he's looking at himself, and his reflection is doing its own thing. At which point he kind of snaps, and he starts to smash his own face into his desk.
This is after he doesn't do that until after he excuses himself. But this is later. That's much later.
Is it? Oh man, where are we?
That's when he sees the reflection, and then the scene ends. And
yeah. Okay, so that isn't the same.
That's when he has another panic attack at school.
Okay.
And they call Annie. And that's when she freaks out and destroys her entire office.
Okay. All right.
Have we got the phone call about the grave desecration yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
This is when Annie goes into, and this is unclear whether it's a night terror or real. She goes into Annie's bedroom and sees the pages flipping on her notebook.
In Charlie's room, yes.
And Charlie is writing.
Yes.
It's probably not a fever dream.
No, because she's invited this thing into their house now.
Yeah. But the drawings are obscene.
Yeah. And they're of Peter.
Yeah.
And I think at this point Annie realized she made a mistake.
It's Peter. Like basically you can see it start to draw Peter, but I think this is where the idea of Peter's broken nose comes from. All that bullshit. So this is when Peter sees Charlie in the corner of his room. That's when he sees that it looks like a soccer ball or something roll off.
Yeah, the basketball looks like her head. Yeah. And he hears the clicking.
Yeah. The tongue clicking. And this is when we see the obscene drawings of Peter over and over again, like one of those flip book cartoon drawings of Peter crying, and then his eyes crossed out, and then his nose broken with his mouth wide open. And this is when Annie goes to burn that journal for the first time.
Oh, yes. I did. Yeah. I was like way far ahead, wasn't I?
Yeah, so she goes with the journal because she's thinking, okay, something's fucked up here. So
I summoned something that probably isn't my daughter. I need to get rid of it. And she thinks that the notebook is the link. She's
actually starting to get more sane here.
Yeah.
She's starting to think a little bit more rationally. And anyway, she tries to burn it. And as soon as flames sprout up on the corner of the sketchbook, flames sprout up on her left collar of her shirt, or her left wrist cuff.
Yeah. And she can't put it out, and then realizes that
she takes it. Yeah, she takes the book out, and then she just basically she loses it. She goes in her pajamas to Joni's house, her apartment, and we, the audience, see Joan Joan's apartment with candles lit everywhere, and all of the items that we've seen thus far as the audience, the pigeon head, a few other items from the house, and
very culty.
Yeah, it's very culty. Yeah, and a picture of Peter in a triangle carved into her kitchen table.
And of course, she's smashing on the door, and there's nobody home.
Yeah, that's when she looks at the mat that says Joni again and thinks,
And then she goes rooting around in the boxes of her dead mother's stuff.
After we see the woman across the street,
yes, this is
which is Joan.
Okay, so yes, Joan curses Peter, who's sitting out having lunch. I invoke thee, Peter.
Yeah.
Goosebumps. It's so creepy.
It is. It's hard to visualize. Like, should we try to explain what it looks like? It's broad daylight, and Peter just looks up from his picnic table, and he looks across this busy street, which is about 40 feet away. And on the other side of that busy street, we see Joan, who is a heavy-set woman,
screaming at him.
Red sweater, waving at him, going, "Peter, I invoke thee." And nobody else apparently can see this, because nobody else looks up, and Peter's looking around going, like,
I'm not even sure if he hears her or if just we as the audience hear her.
I think just we as the audience do.
Because she's like frantically waving at him from across a really busy street. I would imagine he can't hear her, but he's looking at her because she's flailing around at him. And he's probably trying to figure out where he recognizes her from. Maybe she was at the funeral, and so she's only sort of in his memory.
So this is where Annie goes up to the attic, or rather into the spare room, and finds her mother's stuff. And she has the little trope of finding the book and the books that explain everything, and there's highlighted shit everywhere.
And then the photo album with her mother and Joan in it.
And all the other cult members.
Yep.
And Joan looks really young, at least 20 years younger, at least. Maybe even 30. Because Joan is she's 50, 55 maybe. So, yeah, and she looks not a day over 30 in these pictures. So,
there's an increasing number of flies in their hallway.
Yeah, actually, we forgot to mention that. Every time we've cut through about 4 or 5 times in the movie where somebody walks through the hallway and they swat away flies, just a couple of them.
Yeah. And now there's a smell.
Probably unimportant.
Probably. But
it's not something I noticed the first time I watched it.
No, it's subtle. This is where Annie really starts to realize something is wrong, because there is a picture of Charlie, Peter, Steve, and Annie together. Mm-hmm. And then there's a picture of that picture with the cult members chanting around it, surrounded by flames, candles, candle flame.
And she's noticing this symbol all over that she's also got a necklace of.
Yeah, and that's the necklace that Charlie stole.
No, I think she's been wearing that the whole movie. Her mother gave it to her.
Okay.
Yeah. Charlie stole her grandmother's.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then Peter sees that light again going towards his classroom.
Yeah.
That's strange. It starts at a point, and then it looks like a ring of light around the walls of the room, and it just directs a person where it wants them to go, I guess.
Yeah. Draws your attention.
Yeah. So this is the nice attic scene. This is where the flies come in.
Mm-hmm.
Annie goes to look up at the attic, so she pulls down the attic stairs, the ones that you pull down with the hook. And
she gets the smell.
And a face full of flies immediately. There are tens of thousands of flies in the attic.
They're hungry.
And this is where she sees a dead body, a decapitated dead body.
Mm-hmm.
Surrounded by a couple of burnt out candles and some symbols. The same symbol that's on the necklaces.
Yep.
And actually,
that's a weird coincidence.
The scary thing is about that scene is the candle is not burnt out. It's actually still going. And if you look closely, really, really closely, you see a person. I'm going to, again, spoilers. You see a cult member behind her in this scene. There's a cult member up in the attic right now with her.
Really? Oh,
Yes.
The things you don't pay attention to until you watch it a few times.
Yeah, it's so hard to catch. But then she turns around and sees that weird, squiggly, Cthulhu-like symbol again on the wall. It's terrifying to think that there's a fucking cult member up there with her right now. And this is where we cut back to the classroom, where Peter basically goes insane and starts to freak out and gyrate horribly. And he raises his hand.
Yep. In an arch.
Which looks like it should break his arm.
Yep.
It looks like he's having a seizure. And I guess everybody around him probably thinks he's having one too, because...
It certainly looks like a stroke, because his face is drooping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, the girl he likes asked, "Hey, Peter, are you okay?" And it looks like he's having a stroke, and he slams his face down on the desk. Like face first, nose first. Oh, he does it twice. And
then starts screaming.
Yeah.
We did skip over the grave desecration.
Oh, did we? Okay.
That call did come like not too long after the funeral.
Oh, okay. Wow, we really did mix.
Yeah, Steve got a call about the grave being desecrated, and he's like, "What, already?"
Yeah.
Because they'd only just buried her. So.
And he just wanted to keep it a secret, I guess, and just...
Yeah, he was protecting Annie. That would be a little bit upsetting to know that happened right after she died. Like,
that's true.
I wouldn't tell. Like, no. That would just keep it. He can deal with it. So
that's an important point. The grave has been desecrated, dug up, basically.
So the school calls Steve and tells him what happened, and he goes and gets Peter. Actually, no, he calls Annie. And they have a fight, and he says, "You know what happened to your son today at school?" Basically, he blames her because she's being such a bitch to Peter.
Yeah.
That he's like, he's gone insane. And he said, I will protect my son," and then hangs up on her.
Yeah.
And she calls him back, and "Don't you hang up on me." And she says her own snarky, snide, nasty comments, and then hangs up on him.
I think is this before or after? He has a little breakdown in the car too, which is really hard to watch.
Oh yeah.
He almost runs a red light. And then...
It's all around the same time. He calls her from his office because it's without Peter because he is the only one trying to protect Peter from any more, because Peter doesn't need more.
No, he does not.
Or does that? I think that phone call happens earlier, because I know Steve drives up with Peter in the car, and Annie's running alongside it, going, "Oh my God, what happened?"
That's right after his breakdown in the car, and after he broke his nose. So now he's in bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
now Annie's frantically going, "Oh my God, there's a body in the attic. You have to see it.
Steve, you have to go see."
Just heads off, and can you just look, please? You know. and
he's like, "What the hell did you do? You dug up the grave, didn't you?"
Yeah, which is logical with her manic state. So. And
of course she's confused. She's like, "What are you talking about? No, I didn't, but I think I did. I think I did something with this book. I need you to burn it, please. Yeah. If you burn it."
Oh yeah, that comes a little bit after. As soon as his reaction to upstairs too. His reaction, he sees the body.
Yeah.
He sees.
What are we supposed to do about that?
Yeah, and he knows that it's her mother's body. That's the idea, and she knows it too at this point. So, this is the most shocking scene in the movie, as you were saying. comes after that. And he starts showing him all this stuff in the photo albums. Hey, look, this is Joan and my mother, and all this stuff.
And of course, Steve's never met Joan, so he kind of thinks Annie's further crazy.
Yeah. So we have to burn this notebook. I know we do. I know, but I can't do it. You have to.
Because it's going to kill me. She thinks she's going to burst into flames if she does it.
So Steve basically gives up, and then he changes his mind. He goes, I can't do this. I can't. That's it. It's basically
it's games with you anymore.
He's probably ready for a divorce at this point.
Yeah.
Just let it go. So she freaks out and takes it from him, throws it into the fire, and Steve bursts into flames from the feet up. And I mean bursts into flames.
And then we see that, like, she's in shock for a second, and then we see that shimmer of light, that light
pass over
her face, and then she's a blank slate.
Yeah, she's gone.
She's gone.
This is the scene that truly actually frightened me. It actually did frighten me in this movie, I'll admit. It's when we see her in the corner of Peter's room in the next scene.
Yeah.
That scene is so brilliant and unnerving and quiet. And
because, of course, I'm sure they drugged Peter at the hospital because broken noses hurt a lot.
A little bit out of it. So he looks over out of the window and he sees the red light on in the treehouse and rolls his eyes and goes, "Oh fuck!" Right, like
sleeping out there again, you know. Yeah. But then he gets a little scared though.
But he does. But he gets up. But we see in the top left corner of the screen Annie.
Yeah.
To the wall.
Yeah.
Watching him.
Yeah.
And that's the first truly supernatural thing in the movie besides bursting into flames.
Yeah.
And the scene is so quiet and so brilliant and so well done.
I don't think there's music here. I think all we hear is Peter going, "Mom,
no
Dad,"
he's just real sound editing, just the sound of shuffling.
He's looking for his parents. He would like to see his parents. He had a really bad day today.
So all of a sudden the house light goes on to illuminate the treehouse even more. Mm-hmm. So he notices that and goes, "Oh, fuck."
Maybe she came back in.
Yeah, you hear insects chirping and all this stuff. Like crickets. You hear crickets.
So he goes downstairs looking for a parent.
The camera moves and we see Annie crawl through the air. Silent.
Oh yeah, behind him, because he's now seen his burnt, crispy father.
No, he hasn't.
Isn't that... Yeah, doesn't he come down? He turns?
No, that's still in the bedroom when we see Annie crawl through the air out of the bedroom.
Oh, okay.
Discover him for minutes yet. So he's looking around the house, doing his thing. Slowly, wondering what the fuck's going on, because lights keep turning on too. All of the little doll houses are lit up as well. Mm-hmm. Every one. Every small light in the house is on. So every light that's illuminating a picture or anything is on. Which I don't really know if it's significant or not, but it's something I noticed. And then
those lights will turn on when it's dark, and they just
And then he discovers his dad.
Crispy.
Burnt to a crisp. And again, in the upper left corner, we see Annie watching him again.
But this time she's clinging to the fucking ceiling.
Yeah, the ceiling, right to the vaulted ceiling. This is where I knew they really went full on with the supernatural in this movie. I was actually happy to see it. Also, this is when he sees a cult member for the first time. A naked man standing in the doorway of the kitchen.
That's never a good sign.
Yeah.
Naked men in your house, it's not a good sign.
You can see his teeth.
Oh, if it's a stranger, no.
You would know about that, wouldn't you?
And then Annie falls to the floor, jumps down, and is all of a sudden in another corner of the room and chases Peter up the stairs.
Yeah.
And Peter.
The attic's open now.
And the attic's open now, all of a sudden. So he runs up in the attic, and Annie
pulls it closed.
Completely loses it now. Like this is such a jarring scene. I can't even explain it.
So good.
Annie is knocking I can't even.
She's thundering her head against the door of the attic, upside down, clinging to the ceiling.
Yeah.
Like, just thump, 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 thump. It's great. It's such a well-shot scene.
And I can only imagine what Peter's thinking at this point, because he had just woken up. He's probably
He's crying. Mom, stop. I don't know what's wrong. I'm sorry. He's apologizing to her. He's lost. His brain snapped. It's just jello in there now.
he's drooling.
Oh yeah, he's so afraid he's drooling. He's probably pissed himself. We just can't see it.
Yeah, there's flies buzzing. Anyway, he's in the attic now. Candles everywhere. He has no idea what's going on. So he looks around in shock and sees like a circle of candles surrounding the blood-stained body of where his grandmother used to be. And then starts,
she's gone now.
And then starts hitting himself, like punching himself in the face to wake up.
Yeah.
And this is another...
At this point, I realized that therapy isn't going to help this family.
I love how you don't say anything for a long time.
Yeah.
And then you just interject with a quip.
And then Annie finally loses her head.
The sound. All we hear is the sound for a second. She's got a piece of chain from a chainsaw. Just the chain, though. And she is hanging from the ceiling, sawing off her own fucking head.
Staring at Peter.
Wide-eyed, sawing off her own fucking head. He turns around, he sees that, he's getting splattered with blood, and then her body goes to the thump.
It's a sight. And then the cult members.
Yeah, he sees the cult members all in the...
Three cult members, all naked, standing in the corner. And one of them waves so sweetly, it's almost funny. Like, she's just like, oh, hello there. It's
kind of cute, actually.
Just, and then so he loses it. He actually jumps out of the second-story window into the garden, because what else do you do at that point? I guess he just...
You get your clothes
I'd rather
on.
be dead. Because whatever the hell they're going to do to me is going to be way less pleasant.
So are they Satanists and nudists? Is that like they're both, or?
I don't know if they're Satanists. They worship Payman. It's a different kind of demon. They're witches.
I think we can call them Satan.
Yeah, but it's not Satan.
He's one of the kings of hell, so yeah.
So Satanists worship the Satan, though.
Okay, devil worshippers. Is that better?
The devil is still Satan.
It depends if you're talking about specifically the devil or devils in general.
Are there more than one? Is there more than one devil? Oh no, we lost him.
Devils is a term for like demons.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I grew up in the wrong cult because the devil was the devil. Satan, that was just... My cult taught me wrong. But anyways, he is unconscious for a minute, and we see that weird light sort of wash over him, and then he proceeds to get up, and he sort of...
Just a little bit possessed, maybe?
Just a little possession, only a tiny bit.
Little bit, yeah.
He sort of saunters over to the treehouse and climbs up the stairs, and we get the best fucking head trippy moment ever. He walks in.
Excuse the pun.
Yeah. It's full of naked cult members.
Yeah.
With the most unpleasant musical score I've ever heard.
Is that what tree houses are for?
Yeah.
With his sister's body and his grandmother's body bowing down towards him once he gets in position.
To a caricature, I guess.
So they proceed to crown him and say, Charlie, we know this is a little strange for you, but you will get used to your new body. We've released you from your perfect female form and giving you this male host.
Charlie's severed head on top of a statue. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get the hail payment, and Peter does the tongue click.
Yeah.
Christmas must have been fun at that house that year.
Hey man, nudist party.
I guess. I mean, most of them are over 60, it looks like, so.
Hey man, Viagra exists.
Yeah. It's a little bit droopy. Everything's droopy.
There's a couple of young ladies, but I noticed they're not nude.
Yeah.
Why are the old people all naked and the younger ones wearing those white robes? Have they not earned the right to be naked?
I guess not.
Also, are they Satanists?
Well,
Or are they witches?
I guess technically they're not Satanists. I mean, Payman, I think, is like a separate god in terms of like mythology, I guess.
No,
like,
he's one of the kings of hell.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, are there Josephists?
What?
Hey, man, one of the apostles. I could worship one of the apostles, you know. So I guess, you know, in a way, I guess they're Satanists, but it's, I don't know. Maybe not in the Rosemary's Baby sense. I think they just one God. I don't think it's just.
Does Payman come up in any kind of biblical text?
Yeah, he's an actual demon of hell.
Yeah,
according to.
I guess they just worship him. I guess it's like maybe Payman's like just a vassal or something, and these people.
Okay, yeah.
It's like Pazuzu. It's like Pazuzu is in The Exorcist, right?
Yeah. So technically they're Satanists, but Satan just rules over all of these, I guess, and then they each have their own vassals. I think that's the idea. These people just really like Payman.
Okay, so he shows up in the book of Abramelin. I'm sorry, I've done Googled it, but it doesn't look like he comes from like the Abrahamic idea of Satan. So therefore, they actually
he is. He's been in occultism for centuries.
Yeah,
Western occultism,
but not like pagan. Not
pagan. Western occultism. It's different.
I like how we're trying to pinpoint exactly what kind of
rationalize this thing. Yeah.
Well, he's not mentioned in the Bible as far as I know, but
no.
Western the demons, etc., like Pazuzu and Payman and things like that, come from Western occultism, which largely borrows from biblical and Eastern religions.
So it's the expansion pack for Christianity.
Yeah, kind of.
So sort of Satanist, but not really.
Well, it is Satanist in the same way that you would say that Pazuzu possessing Linda Blair in The Exorcist is satanic.
Mm-hmm.
It may not be Satan, but it's one of his minions.
So not paganism, but Satanism.
Satanism, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it really depends how you define all these things. It's somewhat flexible, but
I'd be interested if somebody corrected us, because I obviously I'm not as adverse in every branch of weird culty.
Either here I am just pleased with the film for going the distance and actually sticking to it.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't Annie was crazy all along and it was all in her head. I'm glad they went the cult. We needed a good cult movie. It's been a while.
Well, this is this decade's The Exorcist. It's just as good.
Oh yeah.
It's an incredible film.
Has so much atmosphere.
Damn near perfect. The only misstep I can really see in terms of performance-wise or writing is Joan not looking surprised at that when Annie was explaining to her almost burning her children to death.
Mm.
That's it. And that's such a nitpicky little thing. I love this film. This film is, you know what? It's deathly serious too. It takes itself seriously. And there's the trope that drives me nuts in any film that is serious, of a serious nature, is comic relief. I hate comic relief. I think comic relief is a pathetic attempt at something that doesn't belong in most that aren't comedies. Comic relief, it's not needed.
One minor criticism of this movie for me is the severed head. It made me fucking laugh the first time. Made me laugh the second time. Yes.
Wow, not me.
It's just her. It's so. I don't know why. It just made me laugh. Bane, did it make you laugh?
No.
Myself, no. Maybe I have just a morbid sense of humor. But yeah, the severed head was a little bit. I don't know if corny is the right word, but it gave me the chuckles inside. I was like, hey.
I think corny is definitely the wrong word.
Yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It gave me the giggles. I don't know why. And it did it both times we watched it. So something about it touches me in my giggle box.
Ooh, that's a bit personal.
Does it make you giggle? It shouldn't. Somebody's doing it wrong.
No, I don't think I giggled at any point in this movie. I mean, it was.
No, it really the all of, because it's just like all of a sudden there's this big loud gong and then severed head, and it just every time it just catches me, and I have.
You're probably 1 in 100,000 that would actually say that too.
Yeah, it and it's the only part of this movie that drags me out of it for a second, and it's only for that one scene where we see it for the first time, and it just makes it feels out of place. That might be why it feels very out of place. I don't know why.
I don't feel that way at all.
I'm all by myself going, that fucking head looks stupid. That's what I think of, because she's got such an unique face too, right? So they've accentuated that. Her mouth's hanging open. There's ants everywhere. It just, I don't know why.
Ants everywhere.
Chaos. Living together. Payman.
So, what did you both think about the film?
I love this movie. I could watch it again.
Yeah, I think it was great. Yeah, it reminds me a fair bit of, I think it's the Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah.
I have not seen that.
It's a great movie. But yeah, tonally it reminds me a bit of that.
Yeah.
There's some great scenes in it. The decapitation scene, the emotional scene at the AA type meeting, the bit where she cuts off her head towards the end and she's stuck up on the wall. Yeah. Lots of great scenes.
Scenes, yeah. Yeah, I think it's bound. It's already becoming so, but I think it's bound to be a horror classic.
Yeah, it's a modern classic.
Yeah. I haven't heard a lot of people talk about it, unfortunately.
I hear it from a lot of the people that I know who've watched it. They tell me either it's boring or it was hyped too much. And I'm sitting here going, what hype? Who told you to be hyped about it? Where was the hype? Because I don't hear very many people talk about it.
Sound like an elitist asshole, but for a lot of these people, I think it's just too much to handle. There's too much.
Yeah, and I mean, boring? Really? This movie?
It's not easy to follow, and again, that's all subjective too, right? Like
the atmosphere is palpable, though. Like I can't actually imagine anybody sitting down and feeling bored by this movie.
It's like somebody sitting down and going, "Oh, The Shining is boring."
Oh,
but it's not a jump scare every 20 seconds. So
that's the problem. It doesn't. So horror movie fans don't like it.
But there's always something. There's never dull moments. Like I know this is like an unpopular opinion. Bane and I both have that the first Halloween's quite boring. And that's because for the first 45 minutes of that movie, nothing fucking happens.
Well, except for the perverted voyeurism that's pervasive.
Except for the creepy man in overalls stalking the teenage girls that won't shut the fuck up. They're so fucking annoying.
Yeah. Well,
But it's an unpopular opinion. That movie is revered by most people, but then I hear people saying this movie is boring.
it's not revered by most people. Most people that say they like Halloween have never seen Halloween. They're talking about the sequels.
I do like the second one better because there's
it's one of those things where this movie's boring. This movie's because it doesn't have jump scares, because it's not gory, because it's not.
I like a slow burn, but that takes it too far for me.
I like a slow burn if it has a good payoff.
The payoff is the payoff is subjective too, right?
Yeah, you weren't satisfied with all the teenage girls getting nailed to the wall with knives nude.
Once again, the killing of a sacred deer is a slow burn movie.
Yeah, but everything is tied up in a nice little bow, which I think hurts the film. Mm-hmm. Every time if a filmmaker forces everything tied up into a little bow and explains everything and makes an ending where there doesn't need to be one, I think that's the sign of a filmmaker that's either being coaxed by a larger financial gain to do so, or they don't know what the fuck they're doing and think a story has to have a beginning and a middle and an end. But a story doesn't have to have those. A story just needs to start and taper off, because we can't watch these people forever, right?
But sometimes I think endings are okay. Sometimes they don't bother me when it happens.
Yeah, I don't need anything wrapped up in a bow. Basically.
I think some directors might do that because they never want to see a sequel made.
Oh yeah, that's.
And I think if you close it and make it so it's ended, like when they killed off Michael Myers in Halloween 2. He wanted him dead.
I know. He died in the first one.
I know he did, but he just wanted him to die.
There'll never be a sequel to The Witch, and The Witch had a non-ending.
Yeah, no, and it was great.
Yeah, but there will never be a sequel.
It had an ending, sort of.
But if
she
it was
a witch.
Yeah, I know, but we didn't see her dance around the cauldron and do this horrible shit. She just walked off into the forest. We don't know if they killed her or not.
No, she was with them, laughing with them. We do see it.
The director has stated this. Again, it's a non-ending.
The last scene is her around the fire with them laughing.
They sacrificed her, or they may not have.
Oh, yeah, very true. Fair enough.
It's a non-ending. To give that film an ending like that would have cheapened it one way or the other. It would have just taken everything that came before.
We just spoil that movie. We did.
Oh, it doesn't matter. There's nothing to it, really. We could tell the synopsis of The Witch in 10 minutes. It's really simple.
Have we talked about it yet?
Yeah, there's the witch. The end.
Yeah. It's a witch. It's a witch.
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, I don't know. I get what you're saying. I mean, I'm pretty sure I don't fully grasp what you're getting at.
Like, I mean, Payman is Payman. It's ended.
Yeah.
He's going to be the devil that they all wanted. Good. Yay, hooray. He's going to bring death and destruction.
Yes. What do you mean by payoff, though, right? Like, the climax
depends on who you're talking to.
That's true. The climax doesn't have to be the traditional. If your film has to have a traditional, exciting climax, then
What I mean by a slow burn needs a payoff is it needs to go somewhere.
Does it?
If you're building to something, then you need to build to something.
Well,
otherwise, you're not building to anything.
How do you know it's? Well, that's okay too. That's still that can be okay as well. Otherwise, every film is the same. Every film.
You have to go somewhere. You can't just rely on the slow build.
Why not? Why can't there be films like that? There are films.
It doesn't mean they're good, though.
It doesn't mean they're bad either.
No, they're boring. Boring is also subjective.
Explain why. Yeah.
Well, again, it's the same. Like,
if we relegate filmmaking to such a strict thing, then film has been dead forever, and we may as well.
I don't think anyone's suggesting we're passing a law that has to restrict people, but Obviously, there are some things which are good and some things
Saying a
which are
film
bad.
saying a film can't just meander and not be good is kind of discounting something that could be part of film. It's really, it seems kind of strange.
But there may be exceptions to the rule, but you know, I think there are things which work and things that don't work.
Well, sure, absolutely. I mean, there are parts of some of the.
Halloween's not even a good example of that because it does build to something. It's just personally, I find it anticlimactic. It takes too long to get there.
Are you talking about cliffhangers? Because cliffhangers.
No. Just it's anticlimactic for me because by the time I get there, I just want the movie to be over.
Yeah.
I didn't hate it as much the last couple of times we've watched it. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it a little bit more because I notice more things.
I think that it's just a type of film that neither of you have ever really watched much of. So I like it's hard to like.
Maybe not.
Oh, look, I'm open-minded enough to give it another go, but
I'll tell you, Bane. Every time I watch it, I enjoy it a little bit more. It gets less and less. I've started looking purposefully for things.
If you need a beginning, middle, and an end to your film,
it's not that. It's just there's too much not happening.
Let me finish. If you need a beginning, middle, and end to your film, then the film is not for you. You're not the target audience. It's an art film.
Nobody's saying that here. Who are you talking to?
No, it's that because it's anticlimactic. That's
not what anticlimactic means.
A climax is the build up to something and then a wrap up.
A climax doesn't have to have necessarily
exciting.
Something needs to happen. It doesn't have to be. There is a climax in Halloween. It's just not appealing.
It's a cliffhanger ending. Totally cliffhanger.
That's fine too. I don't mind non-cliffhanger endings. That's also fine. You're misunderstanding. It's subjective. Like
it is.
You don't find it boring.
No, but that's also a completely different type of film than Hereditary or The Witch. They're with completely different things. So the reason I brought up The Witch is because I was trying to bring up a point. Hereditary and The Witch are very similar. Halloween is so dissimilar to those two that they shouldn't even be in the same conversation.
I wasn't bringing it up to compare it.
Yeah, but that's why I brought up The Witch, because they're comparable. Hereditary and The Witch have the same story structure. Mm-hmm. It's exactly the same. It's it's almost a non-climax, and there is no ending. Mm. It's just a. Whereas, say
they're
The Exorcist
going to continue on doing whatever they're doing.
Where The Exorcist has a concrete ending. It's concrete, which is fine. But I think the 40-minute ending in The Exorcist cheapens that movie and turns it from a perfect movie to an almost perfect movie. The ending in The Exorcist is very weak. I didn't want the ending or the payoff at all. That's not the payoff I wanted. I want that payoff, and then I don't want the bow. That payoff.
Yeah, you're adhering that to something neither of us said.
So I'm guessing you're more of an Exorcist 2 man. Come on.
Oh yeah, ease. Yeah.
I enjoyed that one too. Actually,
no, I'm not really missing what you're saying. I don't believe there has to be a payoff, exciting or otherwise. I think a film can just meander, and bad and good doesn't really come into play.
Yeah, no, it's just it's boring.
No,
well, it doesn't mean it's bad.
If it's not going anywhere, it can be boring.
Yeah,
right?
You mean going somewhere?
Well, what I mean is a slow build to something. But I mean, once again, killing of a sacred deer. It's slow to begin with, but that's building atmosphere, and when it takes off, it really takes off.
Oh, it can. That to me is predictable. That's predictable filmmaking, though. It's what most films, even Hereditary, adhere to, and it's quite frankly boring.
Well, for you.
Well, yeah, because everything's the same. It's always starts off slow, and then there's the climax, and then there's the exciting payoff. And I like films that don't do that too.
I don't think Killing of a Sacred Deer was like that though, and I do think a lot of people would probably find the first half of it boring. I don't. I think it's it was a slow burn building to something.
That's one of those almost non-subjective opinions that's essentially worthless at that point, right? Maybe film isn't for them, essentially. So, I mean, I keep using that word subjective, but it only goes so far. I mean, a technicality, Killing of a Sacred Deer is a technically well-made film. You can't argue otherwise.
Mm.
There is no argument to that. So whether or not they find it boring is irrelevant. It's still a good film.
Oh yeah, no, that just boils down to I like it, I don't like it.
Well, that's irrelevant.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
So speaking of horror, has anyone been watching the latest series of Castle Rock?
No.
Mm-mm.
Do you know what that is?
I know what that is. Yeah. It's an amalgamation of Stephen King stories, basically, kind of.
Yeah, Castle Rock's one of the fictional locations in the Stephen King universe. So each series is like a different story taking place in Castle Rock. So you don't know what season 2 is about, or one of the characters?
No.
Should I give you a clue?
I basically lost interest in the series reading about it when they toned everything down. They toned violence down. They toned social commentary down. That's all I know about it. Maybe I'm wrong, but
I'm enjoying it. But
if it's not going to be at least a hard 14A rating here in Canada, I'm not interested. I'm not interested in a light PG-13 series based on Stephen King stories. So,
do you want to guess what characters in season 2 though?
Annie Wilkes.
Oh, you got it. Yeah.
I don't know why I was thinking you were thinking that. It's just I think we talk about Misery a lot, so
that's a great movie too.
It is
pretty good adaptation, yeah. Actually, it was a really good adaptation. Her performance, for sure.
We finally watched The Mandalorian.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we've totally ditched Netflix in favor of Disney Plus.
So what do you think of it?
Oh, I love it.
It is good, isn't it?
I love it.
Yeah, it's really well made. I think the 4th episode's out now. We've only watched.
I
watched that last night. It's not bad.
Nice. Yeah, we'll watch that probably, maybe even later tonight.
The first 3 are probably a little bit stronger than the 4th, but they're all good.
Yeah.
So you like the
I love the meltdowns that Anita Sarkeesian had on Twitter after the first episode, and then it immediately blew
any females in it, except
no speaking roles. And she had
a really important character.
She only had one line.
Never mind that she's essentially their fucking boss and makes the armor for them. But,
yeah, I guess the way I see her, she's kind of like a priestess almost.
Yeah. They very much respect her. So.
Oh yeah. She's like way up there.
She makes this armor from this stuff like really well. So,
yeah, there's no pleasing some fucking people. If you don't like their sacred cow, they're going to be all bitchy.
I think it was probably just an attention grab because.
Oh yeah, she's going to be selling something soon.
Well, she got thousands of comments, and then the next day played victim, saying, "Oh, everyone's sending me thousands of comments." What do you expect?
I had opinion.
Yeah, your opinion is worthless.
Anita Sarcophagus. I love that.
Not Anita. It's
have you guys seen that cartoon? That little cartoon image that appears on the internet a lot, where you have someone, a feminist, who's shoveling shit over a wall.
My favorite.
Yeah, and then the next panel, it's like 3 shovels shoveling the shit back. And then the third panel, she's screaming, misogyny.
Oh, God. That comic is Anita Sarkeesian, literally her entire career. She just flings shit.
A large portion of online feminism.
She gets all mad when people
uses that word opinion a lot too, and it's like you keep using that word, but I don't think you know what it means.
Oh, fuck off. Misogyny. Anyways, I extra love it because it's pissing her off because she's one of my least favorite people on the planet.
Yeah,
That's living, anyways.
I just think she's insignificant, to be honest.
I wish she was. Her and Zoe Quinn, I wish they were as insignificant as people pretend they are. They're fucking not. They have a lot of influence in...
Sarkeesian is pretty much insignificant. She pops up once here and there these days. Hey?
Do you know how much money she made?
It made in the past. Now, she barely gets any views, and
it won't take her long to start. If she wanted to, she could just come back and do it again. She stopped because she didn't need to anymore. She made like upwards of $500,000.
I think people just got tired of her.
I don't know. I bet you she could come back like herpes. She's doing it right now. She came back like herpes, bad rash.
It's a blip.
It's one boil. It's not a full-blown infestation. Give it time. Give her time.
I don't want to give her time.
Oh, they just keep coming back. Like Zoe, oh my god, I'm gonna drive this poor man to suicide and then cry.
So speaking of TV shows, you guys like the Mandalorian, but I mean, who doesn't? Well, apart from a handful of idiots.
Yeah.
Mr. In Between.
I did finish watching In Between once. I don't have a lot to say about it. It's one of those things. I was very, very sleepy for the last 3 episodes.
I have to rewatch them.
Bane
I haven't seen any of it.
Bane sent that to me kind of for my birthday a little while ago.
That's what that was. Okay.
Yeah, I really, really like it. I want to watch the last 3 episodes again, like closely. I
think season 2 is even better, to be honest.
Really? Oh, I hope
there were some episodes in that which were fucking amazing.
Yeah,
but, I just love the character and the concept.
Oh, me too. The last 3 episodes of season 1, there's only 6 episodes, but I was like delirious with fever at the time. So
it was during your plague you watched it.
I was out on the couch just watching on my laptop, going, "Oh, what the fuck's going on?" So I just started again and then fall asleep, and then started again. And then it just kind of fell by the wayside for the last week.
Yeah, that was a nasty fucking cold, man.
Yeah, I was pretty sick.
Oh, I got eye infections again. Again. From that cold.
So no, you couldn't watch Mr. In Between either. That sucks. No, I really do like the concept.
Just for anyone who's listening who may not know what the show is, it's an Aussie show about a guy who's a loving father. He's separated from his wife, but a really good father. Obviously cares for his daughter.
Yeah,
he's looking after his brother who has a disability, and he's just a normal kind of guy, except his other side, which is he's a hitman, and
of course he is.
He collects money and things like that. So he's a violent thug. And it's those 2 parts of his life that he has to kind of walk the line in between. That's the name. Very well made.
Yeah, I have to watch it with Master on another time.
Good. And the episodes are pretty short too. I think they're just a half an hour each.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they're only short episodes. Yeah.
I'm curious. Bane, did you watch any of the more recent Doctor Who by any chance?
Yeah.
How is it?
Is it any good?
Nah.
We pretty much stopped after
halfway through halfway through Capaldi.
Yeah.
I didn't mind him. I didn't like him at the start, but he grew on me. I didn't like the stories, but I liked him as the Doctor.
Who's that? Sorry.
Capaldi.
Oh, Capaldi. Yeah.
I didn't like him at the start, though.
I got sort of bored with the format at that point.
The format is insufferable. We've been
binge watching it for...
Are you guys fans of the old series? Tom Baker and...
I love the old series.
I haven't seen any of the old series, and I want to. I feel so left out.
Yeah.
Tom Baker. Just watch all the Tom Baker ones.
Yeah, Tom Baker is essential viewing. Everything else...
Is he the one with the jellies?
Good, but it's awesome.
Yeah,
he has the jelly? Okay. All right.
Jelly baby, yeah. He's such an amazing actor. He's
Yeah.
great.
Okay. So
I
I
think
mean,
he's working as a construction worker or something like that, and it just kind of that job kind of fell into his lap.
Yeah.
I think he had like 1 or 2 acting things before that, but yeah.
It just kind of worked out for him that way. No, it's good it did, though. I love that classic Doctor Who with Tom Baker for sure. It's great.
yeah, I need to. I feel so left out. I've only seen the new stuff.
We got.
I loved it. I loved it.
We got burnt out by the format, though.
Oh yeah, you actually had me watch them not in order. We watched Matt, David, and then Chris. It was
Yeah. I started with the modern stuff, right? I thought I'd start with Matt Smith because he's the most accessible, and then
I loved Chris.
oh yeah,
I think that he was like way underrated.
for sure. But the format again got the best of us.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why David's the favorite.
Yeah, even in those seasons, the format was the same, but it's just started to get to us. He goes somewhere, gets out of the TARDIS, shit hits the fan, blah blah blah, ad nauseum roll credits.
Yeah,
really, really tiresome when every episode is the same.
Oh yeah, when you binge anything for too much, like The Walking Dead. Oh man, I got bored.
We stopped watching 5 years ago. I'm done.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
bored.
One day I might go back and pick up where we left off and watch the rest of it. But I needed a fucking break, man.
At least with the comics, like it didn't feel like such a formula, even though it was, because everything lasted so long. Sometimes an issue would be 35 seconds in their time.
Yeah.
Which was really exciting. Right? But
they made whole episodes out of that.
Yeah.
They should have sped it up a bit.
Yeah. Or I was really looking forward to the Negan part in the TV series because it was so great in the comic.
Me too.
But it was a huge disappointment. The whole Negan thing in the TV show just did not work.
I wanted more Negan.
I didn't see the ending of the Negan thing. I just saw, I think it was season 5 when they got
around when we stopped watching.
They got what's his face's death pretty much correct. From issue 100. What's his name? I mean, spoilers, but Glenn.
Oh yeah.
That was essentially correct in terms of how it happened anyway. And then that was it. I just kind of lost interest from there.
I know I'm behind just about everyone else, but I watched all the seasons of Rick and Morty last weekend.
Really?
It's a great show. I love it.
Pretty funny. It's got some funny.
I've watched probably 30 minutes of that show spread out over a couple of episodes, and it makes me sad on the inside.
Really? I thought it was very funny.
No, that's not my thing. I can't get into it.
I like the fact that Rick, the grandfather, essentially just tortures his grandson.
Pretty much.
Talk about trauma.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know, I honestly think the fan base ruined that for me. It's just
Oh yeah.
Well, I think that's why it took
people
so
like
long.
Rick and Morty.
Well, I think that's why it took me so long to watch it because often if a show comes out and everyone's talking about it, I'll think, oh.
Yeah, I just let it calm down for a little bit and then head.
But I thought, I'll finally get around to watching it, and I watched it, and I binged all the seasons, and I did love it. I thought it was great.
Nice.
I will consider trying it again. A lot of stuff like that, I usually wait until long after it's the hype has died.
Hey, well, at least you gave Invader Zim a chance.
I love that. I loved Invader Zim. There's one I've been reluctantly watching from the sidelines for a while. Big Mouth, which is trying really hard to be South Park.
Oh yeah.
I hear so many very mixed things about it. Some people love it. A lot of people really hate it. Have you watched any of it, Bane, at all?
No.
No?
No, I know what it looks like. That's it.
Yeah, I've seen clips out of context clips, which is a really bad way to judge a show.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah.
Like, I knew there were some people awfully upset that it was like over sexualizing children, and I'm sitting here going, have you seen South Park?
Yeah,
Like,
no kidding.
It's that, like, they're cartoon characters, man. They're not real people. They're not real kids. Calm the fuck down. It's supposed to be making fun of puberty a lot, which.
Well, yeah, I got curious here. I'm reading the synopsis for the first episode. It sounds like it's making fun of that. Yeah.
Yeah, the big monsters are supposed to be their puberty, like manifestations of their puberties. Yeah, see, it sounds like it could be funny, but I've had some reservations about sitting down and watching it. I think it might be worth giving it a shot, but I've done canceled Netflix now because who needs that?
Yeah, I suppose.
I watched the first 3 episodes of a new show the other night. They all dropped on the same day, called The Servant. I think M. Night is a producer or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Interesting concept. It's a couple hire an 18-year-old woman as a nanny to look after their child, right? But we soon learn that their child died, and the mother is having a real hard time coping. So a psychiatrist suggested that maybe they should get it's some kind of real life doll, like it looks like a real baby.
Ooh,
So the mother is
not good.
Yeah, so the mother is coping by like mothering this doll, right? It looks really, realistic. So she wants to go back to work. So they hire a nanny to effectively look after the doll because, the mother's just not coping and she's not willing to accept that the child, died, right? So she goes off to work, and the father's like a stay-at-home chef. He works from his home kitchen, and he says to the nanny, it's just a doll, and he explains the whole reasoning behind it and says, while she's at work, you can, catch a bus to the city or do whatever you want. And she looks at him strange and says, what do you mean? Because she's acting like it's a real baby as well.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Yeah. And she's also got this weird crucifix made out of like twigs and stuff, which she's hanging over the baby.
Oh, so she's a lunatic too.
Yeah. So at the end of the first episode, he hears a baby crying from the nursery through the baby monitor and goes in, and there's a baby in there, like a living baby.
Oh Lord.
So he doesn't know what the fuck's going on. Like, he thinks this crazy nanny has kidnapped a fucking baby, right? But the wife comes home, so he can't do anything about it because, he doesn't want her to have a mental breakdown. So what the fuck do you do in a situation like that?
I guess you let her keep it.
Oh, it's an interesting concept. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know if it's going to be a disappointment, but I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I'm just looking. Apparently, there are only 3 episodes out now. So
yeah, they all dropped on the same day. So,
has it chapter 2's been out for a while, hasn't it?
Since September.
Yeah, I gotta say, I thought that was a lot better than the first chapter.
I haven't seen it yet, but I had.
Oh, you haven't?
No, not chapter 2. The first one we watched, but I had some initial thoughts when I saw the first one that they were going to sort of the first one felt rushed in the same way but the book reads very strange. I don't know if you've read it.
No.
No, the book's amazing.
The book reads very strange because it pops back and forth a lot between the kids and the adults, and their climaxes both come at the end of the book at the same time. So you kind of read little snippets of each. So they like rushed through the kids portion of the book in the first one, and I figured that what would happen is they would amalgamate both at the end, sort of like the way the book does.
Yeah, and I thought the original plan years ago was to go with 3 films too, because the kids are
or
80,
4, I mean, right?
Yeah, the kids are 80% of the book, and the adults are maybe 20% at the most. I'm thinking more 85-15.
Yeah, the adults are like
little that they shouldn't even have their own film, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, they should be constantly mixed with the kids. They don't get much of their own, like, to read it. There's not a lot of them.
No, the book is 1,100 pages, and the adults probably get, like I said, like 150 pages of that tops. Yeah. The rest is the kids, and only the kids.
Yeah.
Until the end.
That's the main showdown. Like when they get to it as adults, it's still weak, it's pregnant, it's all weird and shit. So I didn't hate the first one. My only issue was what they did. They fucked with the characters quite a bit. At least the two of them in particular.
Yeah, the first mistake was they took all of the racial undertones out of it, which gave the character Mike his backbone as a character.
Yeah, they completely removed everything that made Mike, and he was one of the most important characters in the book, and that made me. It kind of sucked, actually.
Yeah, they basically switched Ben and Mike around, and they just destroyed Mike as a character to the point where
because they were too afraid to delve into the racism and all that kind of stuff
in the movie, and that's a pathetic excuse to completely destroy a character that's what his strength is built off of.
Yeah, like SJWs complain about whitewashing all the time, but they actually sucked the life out of Mike's character.
Completely. Yeah, he whitewashed his character without literally whitewashing him.
Yeah,
it was pathetic.
Like that struggle was very integral to what made him him.
Yeah,
especially with his father and stuff. It was also a really integral part of the book. I mean, as far as movies go, it's not terrible, but
I think it's a great horror movie.
Yeah,
I think
if you're expecting something.
Has too many jump scares on a critical level, but it does them right. It does them so well that it just works.
Yeah, if you wanted to go into that expecting something really faithful to the source material, you'll be disappointed. But as a movie, it's not terrible. I'm glad the second one is better.
Well, yeah,
I think it's better. I heard some people review it and say that it was a letdown after the first one, but yeah. I was surprised that I actually enjoyed it more than the first one. So.
Well, we're looking forward
to it.
Watch it. Yeah.
I'm almost at the point where I'll just wait for the other one to come out and watch them both, one after the other.
When on like physically, yeah. And then, yeah.
Mostly, I'm not that excited, so.
Oh.
I watched The Irishman the other day.
I do want to see The Irishman. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a little surprised to find out that it's 3.5 hours long.
Holy cow, that's a long
I thought I'll watch it before I go to sleep. It'll only be like an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes. And I got about an hour and a half into it, and I thought, this doesn't look like it's going to end anytime soon. I looked at the time, and it's still like 2 hours to go.
Nice.
So I finished it the next day.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. We got Al Pacino and Robert De Niro and Joe Pesci in the same film. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You sold me.
Yeah. Directed by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, I was just about to say it's Scorsese. De Niro and Scorsese doing a gangster movie. How can you go wrong with that?
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. I'm excited for it. But did you like it? Was it good?
Yeah, I thought it was good. Yep.
Good.
I wouldn't say it's as good as Casino or Goodfellas, but it's still good. Very good.
Goodfellas. Oh, I love Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies ever.
That might be my favorite gangster movie. I can't say for sure. It gets changes so often.
I still say Once Upon a Time in America. But
thank you for introducing me to that one. That was a treat. I had heard about it for years, but finally sat down and watched it for one of the episodes. It was great.
But Goodfellas is a close second.
Yeah.
cliche as it is, I still love Scarface.
Yeah,
Oh
Scarface.
yes, that's another great gangster movie.
That's still
That has
my
Brian
favorite.
De Palma, the director. That has his stamp all over it.
I love it. I love the musical score. I love the acting. I love everything about that fucking movie.
Yeah, it's a treat just to look at.
Yeah, it's so hard to watch. Like, it's
Yeah,
just
the
it's
emotional level. Yeah, it's great.
yeah, it's great. I think that's probably why it's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm. So, anyway, I guess we should wrap this up pretty soon.
So yeah, we'll hopefully see everybody on the 13th of December for our Christmas special.
Yeah, I was just going to mention.
Oh, we're doing the Christmas special next.
Yeah,
time.
We
I
want to
think we
talk about
should.
our next episodes, but yeah, we should probably just squeeze in a little Christmas special there just for the hell of it.
So it is a Friday the 13th in December.
Ah.
Yeah.
Now, I did make a suggestion to you off air. What do you think of that suggestion?
That's not bad. We could do that.
Have you told Biggs or?
I haven't. So you go right ahead.
I was thinking last year we did a theme of Christmas movies.
Okay.
So this year I think we should do a Christmas theme of Christmas movies or zombie movies. You have a pick.
Or zombie movies?
Yeah. So you can pick a Christmas movie or a zombie movie.
Okay.
That'll make for a really weird freaking episode depending on who picks what.
Well, yeah, I do have a motivation for picking it or suggesting it
a Christmas zombie movie
because I really can't think of any Christmas movie I wanted to pick. So,
well, yeah, we actually picked.
and I do have a zombie movie I want to pick. One Cut of the Dead.
Yeah.
I mean, if we because like we did the fun Christmas movies that were sort of. I mean, you picked a really well-known Christmas movie, but all I can think of off the top of my head are like the saccharine sweet ones that everybody's seen a million times over.
I don't want to do them.
Exactly. I knew you wouldn't. So I mean, I'm down with doing a zombie-themed episode. Actually,
well, Christmas or zombie, so you have a pick, and I think that should be a running theme every Christmas. We have Christmas or whatever, Christmas or I don't know, time travel or whatever, whatever we pick.
We need to find a Christmas plus zombie movie.
Oh,
that would be good, but I can't think of any. Is there like a zombie Santa?
I bet you there's like some weird low budget schlocky.
I'm just gonna pick some weird ass slasher movie again, just so both of you know. So
it's got to be a zombie movie.
Doesn't have
Christmas or Christmas
or Christmas.
Yeah.
So a Christmas slasher. So Santa Claus, where Santa actually has claws. Has that been done? It has to have been done.
I mean, does Jack Frost count as a Christmas movie?
Is there?
Oh yeah, that's probably what I was gonna pick. You can do it.
Okay.
So she knows what she's picking.
Yeah, I do. Jack Frost, not the one with Batman in it.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll like Jack Frost, I think, Bane. You'll have a good time. Anyway, after that, do we want to talk about a couple episodes after that quickly, or just?
Oh yeah, we can run down a couple. I think after. Sure. I think after. Yes, it is my episode after that.
Yep.
We're doing Adrian Brody appreciation.
He's a great actor. So yeah. So you're doing the Jacket and
the Experiment.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. Those are great. Yeah. I've been talking about the Experiment to Master Anon for years, pretty much since we met, and I still haven't gotten him to watch it. So
no, it looks good. It actually looks really quite well done from the trailers, and I liked the Jacket a lot.
The Jacket is a head trip, but it is
an intense movie. I enjoyed it.
Oh, it's so different and interesting.
It is. Yeah, and Adrian Brody is actually, he's a very, very good actor. I think he's actually, doesn't he have like a bit part in The Irishman, or?
I don't remember seeing him.
No, I just remember in one of the like trailers or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm probably crazy. But anyway, he's a really good actor who's
He
in
is in Peaky Blinders, one of the seasons of Peaky Blinders.
right. Yeah, I heard about that. I need to watch more of that.
Oh, and then after that we have the longest episode I think we're ever going to do, the Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah, that should be early next year.
Well, we've been going for 4 hours now, so.
So that is going to be 3 incredibly long, really beautiful movies. So I think we might actually do that on a Saturday earlier in the day.
If that works for Bane as well, yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I do it on a Saturday already. You mean a Sunday for me?
a Sunday for you.
Yeah, that should be fine. I don't think there'll be a problem.
Or earlier on Friday, if we can get a Friday off of work, something like that.
Yeah. So
we're starting 2:30 my time now because of daylight saving shift, so I have no problem starting earlier.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's
Because before daylight saving shift, we're starting about 12:30 my time, which is, probably a better time for me. But
we'll make you get up too early on a Sunday.
Hey,
I said we won't make you get up too early on a Sunday if we end up doing.
I woke up at 4:30 this morning, so
gross. That's what I do for work.
We went for an early morning walk because sleep patterns aren't quite back to normal yet.
Oh yeah, that sucks.
Are your sleep patterns ever normal?
Yeah, just haven't been for months. So but they're fairly normal now.
And well, that's good. I mean, it's getting better.
Oh, and then right after such a lovely episode, we have Torture Fest episode 2,
which is where we both Bane and I try to torture Miss Anon with the worst movies that we can pull out of our asses and make her suffer through them.
Bane lost last time really hard, and I'm shocked. I still love that freaking movie. I want to buy it. It is so funny.
RoboVampire was insufferable for you, wasn't it? After a while,
insufferable. That was the problem. It was close.
We'll see with the next one. I think I picked the Turkish Spider-Man. I think. Oh, you're gonna hate me. There's no way you're gonna think that's a good movie. No way you're gonna buy that afterwards.
Good, but is it gonna be funny?
Funny to a point.
So okay,
I haven't watched it yet, right? I've just seen bits of it. I think you'll find it funny up to a point, and then it will just get boring.
That's what edged you out last time, because RoboVampire was funny for a little while, and then I wanted it to be over, and it just kept going.
So I suspect this one's going to be even worse. But anyway,
yeah.
Grindhouse Nightmares made me laugh. I was guffawing through pretty much the whole thing. So
I'm not quite sure what I'm going to pick yet, but I have some ideas. So,
and then after that, I think it's my pick, and I've changed my picks just recently. So,
here, what do we got?
Naked.
Yeah, and
I fucking love that movie. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. Such an amazing movie from the 90s. Have you guys seen it?
I have not. You've asked me about that a few times now.
It is a great movie. If you want great acting, you'll love it. Trust me.
What year did it come out, or who's it directed by?
93, 94, I think. And I think it was Mike Lee directed it.
Oh, yeah. 93 here. I have it.
Going off the top of my head. And yeah, great movie.
Nice.
And then, Master Anon's next 2 picks after that are
Wait. I haven't said my second one. Cloud Atlas.
I did. You didn't hear me.
Oh,
well, Atlas, I've never seen that either. That's a film, isn't it?
You're gonna love that. That's an interesting movie.
He's directed that, right?
Yeah, bombed though. I don't know why. I think it's a great movie. I think it's a beautiful movie.
Tom Hanks is in it, I believe. Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. No, it looks like an amazing science fiction film from the trailers and what I have seen of it. So
it is a lot of big name actors, and they play a lot of different roles. So it's one of those movies set in numerous different time periods.
Oh yeah.
And it slowly builds up the story. So
that sounds exciting. Yeah, I kind of know that it's without giving any too much away, I'm not going to talk about it. It's kind of, yeah, like the same characters throughout time ish, maybe. That's kind of what I get from it, from the trailers.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess we'll stop at my next one for tonight. But yeah, my next one after that, like my next episode is batshit insane. It'll be a lot of fun.
I love Manborg.
What is that?
Episode
20.
Episode 20.
Yeah, but what have you picked?
Oh, Dead Leaves, which is a 2003 Japanese animated movie. Well, it's kind of a movie. It's only 45 minutes long, but it's batshit insane. It's hilarious, and it's set in a dystopian future, which is kind of the theme I'm going for.
Yeah,
very low budget as well. And the next film is Astron 6. Astron 6 which is a director collective. Canada. It's mainly directed by Stephen Kostansky, the same fellow who directed The Void from a few episodes back.
Yep.
Yeah. But it was made with 2,000 Canadian dollars in, I believe it was Stephen's garage.
Wow.
And it is for 2,000 or 2,000 Canadian dollars, and just the way it looks and acts, it's very tongue in cheek.
I love it. It's hilarious.
It looks stunning.
It's really cool.
Like, it's just the way it's done. It's very stunning, and it's just a really cool, fun movie. And they're both set in dystopian futures. They're both kind of comedies, and it's just a lot of fun. So that's that.
And then my next one after that's Depression, because I do enjoy depressing the both of you.
Oh, 2 animated films.
One animated film that a lot of people have talked to death, but I want to pair it with the other one on purpose because nobody has fucking seen that one.
Plague Dogs is something that I had never seen. So
yeah, I don't know very many people that have even heard of it.
Well, the book I've heard about, but I didn't know there was a film adaptation at all.
And surprisingly enough, this is another author who had his fans sending him death threats because of the way he ended his book. So the film adaptation has the proper ending.
Well, that's a switch, and very nice. It's a good switch.
So it's depressing, but it's interesting.
And then after that, I think we've got the shorts special.
Yeah, which I still am up in the air about, so I'm glad it's a ways off.
Yeah, that's
I haven't really planned mine either. So
I don't really watch shorts. It's not something, so I'll probably pick one of those amalgamation movies that just has a bunch of shorts all together in it.
Oh, like an anthology or something. That's okay.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so should we say goodbye to everybody before I fall asleep here?
We've been going for a long time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's listened to me piss and moan about shit for long enough. So
You've been very angry this episode.
yeah.
All right, everybody. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Hopefully.
Bye.
Hopefully. Bye.